The media here are offering a sense of fevered national celebration of the life and times of the Queen. Evidently, they haven't been taking opinion here. This is a social club for West Indian senior citizens in North London. Nowadays, there are plenty of empty chairs, but those who still survive have genuinely relevant stories to tell.
The arrival of more than 400 happy Jamaicans. They've come to seek work in Britain and are ready and willing to do any kind of job that will help the motherland along the road to prosperity.
After all, these were men who came to London to answer a call. The Queen's subjects from the colonies shipped to Britain to plug a labour shortage just when Elizabeth had come to the throne. And no, they do not share the view that Britain should be feeling good about its past. Will you be celebrating the Queen's Diamond Jubilee?
No way.
The logic runs like this. Britain says it needs your labour, but when you arrive you get to do the job the locals don't want and have to tolerate a torrent of racist abuse.
They'll call you a nigger, black bastard.
And you'd come here because the government said we need people to come from the colonies because there's not enough people to do the jobs.
That's right, yeah.
So you thought you were coming here to do them a favour?
Yeah.
There's a profound sense that bigotry had its roots in colonialism and slavery and was passed down from the establishment, the monarchy, to the working classes. Everyone we interviewed said the Queen should use the Jubilee to apologise for the past.
On behalf of the people who commit all these crimes, yes.
1,000 apologies now would make any difference. Reparation might.
What the Queen really meant to us, the black people, to celebrate our Diamond Jubilee? Nothing. She don't mean anything to us. She don't contribute anything to us.
The issue of compensation is an interesting one too. Friends of the monarchy have suggested the taxpayer here should buy the Queen a new yacht to say thank you for her unstinting service to the country.
OK, so just sign the petition right here.
Here, meanwhile, men and women who devoted their working lives to the empire are facing having their club bulldozed by the local council to save money. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, North London.
It's just me and my 2 children who now have children of their own. And so at times we do talk about it, but not in the depth as we should. And one of the things that really surprised me the other day, my daughter said I have a granddaughter who's 7, and she goes to a dance class. And something had happened, and she's supposed to have said to somebody that she doesn't like white people.
Tonight, File on 4 investigates race relations in the police. 13 years after the Stephen Lawrence inquiry found a service blighted by institutional racism, why are some officers still complaining about the attitude of colleagues?
I was attending a robbery call. It was an emergency call, and he contacted me on my radio. He said, right, when you finish with that, can you get me a bacon butty? At first, my impression was, have I heard that right? Because A, I'm a Muslim, B, it was Ramadan, so I was fasting. I just found the whole request highly inappropriate.
But what happens if you complain? We hear allegations that the powerful police disciplinary process turns against you. The programme has seen an internal report which suggests disproportionate numbers of minority officers end up under investigation.
If you were to compare my scenario with a white officer's equivalent, it's not nice for me to say, but I feel and believe it was racial discrimination.
And with minorities still underrepresented in the ranks, we've also discovered more are leaving the service than joining. Why aren't police up to strength with the numbers they need to represent the communities they serve?
I'll show you a photo on my phone. This is me in uniform. I felt very proud that I was putting on the uniform because the uniform, to me, signified being part of a disciplined force.
At 40, Anthony Joseph was a bit of a late starter for a police career, but he came with a lot of life experience, having worked in local government community relations. He's a graduate with a master's degree in criminal justice. When he joined the City of London Police in 2009, he did so with a sense of purpose.
Because of a lot of the negativity surrounding the police, especially with the black community and relations with the black community, I felt going in at that time, I had the necessary skills and aptitude to make a significant contribution. I was willing to work hard and I was willing to do whatever it took.
His probationary work got off to a very promising start. Within weeks he was being commended for an arrest of a wanted man who then tried to escape from the custody suite of a police station. The custody manager, a police inspector, was impressed, so much so he wrote a glowing tribute.
I understand this was your first arrest, and as such you're to be congratulated. It's gratifying to see young officers setting such high standards. Well done.
But soon after, things started to go wrong. Anthony Joseph describes a mounting sense of isolation as his probationary period progressed. An official complaint was made against him by a colleague for accepting the gift of a small bottle of fizzy drink from a shop where he was attending a robbery. Then he was accused of gross misconduct, a dismissible offence. He was suspected of cheating during academic work for an NVQ police qualification. They said he'd forged the signature of a supervisor responsible for signing off his work.
There was no wrongdoing on my part, but they decided to go forward with an investigation that lasted 3 months.
3 months?
Absolutely, 3 months, whereby I believed at the time this could have taken 24 hours just to decipher who had signed it, rather than sabotaging the time I had, which was crucial at this time because I was trying to get my NVQ completed. Being accused of being a cheat, obviously it was trying to make it appear that I was a person that could not be trusted, and I was also told that I could potentially be sacked, so this caused a great deal of stress upon me at the time.
It turned out a different police supervisor had signed the work off. Although Mr. Joseph had done nothing wrong, he ended up paying the price. He was put on an action plan to manage his performance. By this time, he alleges they were trying to manage him out of the service, not keep him in, by setting unfair targets.
Who is fairest?
I had to complete 7 arrests. I also had to complete 7 stop and searches per day.
Is it standard practice to put a number on the stop and searches that you were asked to do?
It's not usual practice, but in my case, I can only say that this practice was placed before me to make it appear that I could not perform or reach up to the acceptable standard. And it's like being between a rock and a hard place to be able to complete these action plans and complete stop and searches where you don't have the reasonable grounds to do so.
He didn't make the targets. The National Black Police Association was brought in. Its president, Charles Critchlow, himself an officer of 22 years' experience, reviewed his case with dismay.
That is an inappropriate action plan in our estimation. What would be required is for that trainee to be able to demonstrate that when they've conducted a stop and search, that they've done it in accordance with the legal requirements and that they've done it according to guidelines and they've done it appropriately. But there is no requirement for any officer to conduct any specific number of arrest or stop and search or anything for that matter.
Did you have a look at his performance record?
I couldn't see anything in the various documentation that I looked at that would suggest to me that this is an officer that you'd want to be getting rid of. I would have thought that this is an officer that you would want to try and develop.
The association thought it wasn't too late to salvage the situation. They suggested some of their own resources were put to good use by City of London to help what should have been a trainee with great promise.
We offered them free mentoring. We have got access to mentors who would be of a fairly senior rank and of significant experience in terms of, developing officers. It was bizarre that they never actually considered the offer.
Did they tell you why?
They didn't even respond.
Anthony Joseph, the trainee with a master's degree in criminal justice, commended for setting high standards, was told by the force he wasn't good enough. He left last year, having failed to qualify as a fully fledged police constable. 2 months ago, Mr. Joseph began employment tribunal proceedings against the force, alleging racial discrimination. But facing big legal bills if he lost, he withdrew. No one from City of London Police would be interviewed for this programme, but in a statement we were told,
"The force works very hard to continually improve our approach to equality and diversity, work that was acknowledged recently when we were recognised as the National Association of Muslim Police's Force of the Year. There is still more the force can achieve in this area, and that continues to be a focus for the senior management team. The allegations made by Mr. Joseph are entirely unfounded, and it is disappointing he sees fit to raise this issue again, given he formally withdrew the complaints during an employment tribunal he brought in April.
Might it not be the case that you just weren't a very good police officer at that level?
Well, I disagree, because I feel that I was performing to a good standard. When you're going through probation, you will make mistakes. It's part and parcel of your training. The experience that I had, it made me feel that this was totally wrong and it was unfair.
Who is fairest?
And unethical that a person be treated in this manner.
Might it be the case that you're oversensitive about your race then, and that you see things in a particular way because of that?
I would disagree that I'm oversensitive, based on the fact that before I joined, I was well aware of the Macpherson report into institutionalised racism. But I felt, as a citizen of the UK, born and bred in Britain, I would be able to make a significant contribution, and a positive contribution.
Madam Speaker, the Macpherson inquiry has demonstrated the failings of one very important public institution, the police service.
Among the Macpherson recommendations taken forward by the Blair government were those aimed at increasing numbers of black and ethnic minority officers.
I will set targets for the recruitment, the retention and promotion of ethnic minority police and civilian staff.
That was seen as vital to help clean up the service, putting an end to institutional racism. But it hasn't happened. To be representative at that time, the service needed around 7% of minority officers. The Office of National Statistics' most recent percentage is 9.5. But so far, more than a decade on, less than 5% has been achieved. Part of the reason for this is that too many of those, like Anthony Joseph, who join hoping for a career for life, leave early. Almost half who voluntarily resign within 2 to 5 years in uniform are from minorities. And it's getting worse. When File on 4 checked the latest Home Office figures, they showed there were more minority officers leaving than joining. In 2010-11, 165 signed up, but 204 left.
This is something that's a real major concern now. The figures over 5 years tell us that roughly about half of Asian officers have left. So retention levels after recruitment, you open the front door, and for half of them the back door's open and they go.
Professor Simon Holdaway is a former police officer who spent most of his academic career as a criminologist, studying race relations and the police. He's dismayed by the latest figures.
It almost beggars belief, actually, given the history of policy in this area and government attention, that this isn't a matter that the Home Office is investigating, engaging in research about it, regarding it as urgent. And chief constables themselves, of course, should, within their own constabularies, keep a very watchful eye on this kind of thing. Because, I mean, apart from anything else, it's wasting an awful lot of public money, but it's raising a fundamental question about inequality within the police workforce.
That would be a big alarm bell, would it, that sort of statistic?
Well, it'd be so loud you'd have to put your hands up to your ears. It's a clanging gong. I mean, it's just terrible. It's a massive problem. It probably amounts to a crisis.
And it's getting worse.
Seconds later, an officer is heard using racist language.
You'll always be a nigger. Yeah, that's your problem. Yeah? You pretend to find a racist comment. That's your problem. I'll always be a nigger. That's what you said, yeah? You'll always have black skin colour, yeah?
Do you mind if I point out that you also happen to be African American? I happen to look at some of the institutions where these physical fitness challenges and where the SEALs have gone have been diverse institutions. I'm wondering, what's it like when you show up? Are people surprised to see you there?
Oh, yes. Regardless of whether it's a predominantly white audience or mixed audience or African American, they're all kind of like shocked, because we are like, out of 2,500 SEALs, there's only like 50 of us. And it's very rare that you see a black face. So people are always a little shocked. And African Americans are impressed usually and kind of excited and more responded to you because they see that, hey, that guy's just like me.
Why do you think that is?
I'm glad you asked that, and it's something I address almost every diverse audience that I speak to, and because I get that question a lot, and it's not racism, it's not because because of anything other than two things that I've seen from a personal experience talking to other friends and family. And it's one is awareness. You can't aspire to be something that you have no idea. You truly don't know what it is. And the other thing is swimming. A lot of African Americans, especially ones that I know personally, don't know how to swim or not comfortable in the water. And obviously, being a U.S. Navy SEAL, you have to be very proficient in the water.
Kids whose parents belonged to Valley Club were back in the water and having summer fun one day after controversy kept them away. And youngsters who got to use that same pool for only a day got an apology from the swim club, but no invitation to return.
It's just really unfortunate, and we apologize deeply. We regret deeply that this had to happen.
Here's what happened. A daycare center catering to mainly minority Black and Hispanic kids paid $1,950 for the kids to use the pool once a week for an hour and a half. But after one visit, their check was returned and summer swim trips canceled.
We severely underestimated the number of children and our capacity to handle these groups. We were not prepared for it, and that's the only reason. It was a safety issue, and that's the only reason that the children, we felt it was not safe for them to be here.
The daycare center calls that a lie. It claims the club pulled the plug because of racist complaints from some white members.
As the children came running down the hill saying, Miss Wright, Miss Wright, those people up there are saying, what are those black kids doing in the pool?
It's just kind of like sad that like people were still thinking like this when I felt like these days was over.
If someone said that, I don't know. I didn't hear it. People are going to say things, but it's not one person saying it is not the position of the club or the board, certainly not how we raise our children.
The club flatly denies it discriminates and says 2 other daycare centers were also canceled after one visit.
It's just unfortunate that this had to turn into such a firestorm, because this has been totally misrepresented in terms of our club and how welcoming we are.
He doesn't deserve this. He is a kind, tolerant person that would do anything for anyone and teaches our children, teaches me, that everything can be resolved with conversation.
But considering the gap between both sides, conversation alone may not resolve this controversy. Susan Candiati, CNN, Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania.
It's not racism.
Why we can't always believe what we hear from the press. Never criticize without knowing the facts.
What are you doing for the Latino community today?
I might have tacos when I go home. I'm not quite sure yet. I have spent 2 years in Puerto Rico. I will probably do the same thing for the Latino community.
You realize that's not really the comment to say right now. You might have tacos tonight.
I might have spaghetti tonight. Being of Italian descent, I could go out and I've had ethnic food. And when you asked me what I was doing for Latinos tonight, I may go out and have a Latino dinner in the Latino community. There's nothing wrong with that. And you could twist it and turn it whichever way the press decides to do. Again, being someone of Italian descent, I don't know what you are, and it doesn't matter what you are. Being of Italian descent, I, in this community, have been at times thought to be of an ethnic background. And you know what? Our community is an open community. We admire all religions, all faiths. It doesn't matter whether you're Italian, whether you're Irish, whether you're Polish. That, to me, doesn't matter one little iota. So if I was going to go out and have a Mexican dinner tonight, an Italian dinner tonight, it's immaterial. It's an open community.
I wasn't asking about what you're having for dinner, sir. I was asking, what are you doing for the community? And you responded immediately, I'm going to have tacos probably tonight.
I could, again, if I was going to go out and have tacos, I'd go to the Italian
that's not the point here, Mayor. Mayor, there's 10% of your community here that is Latino. there has been a segment of this community that's been impacted by the FBI arresting 4 officers over alleged discrimination. And you tell me today that your priority tonight is I might go have tacos.
Well, wait a minute. I didn't say it was a priority.
Well,
you asked me what I
asked you what are you doing for the Latino community.
Said maybe go out and have a Latino meal tonight, whether it be tacos or whether it be any other meal.
But don't you think that you should be doing something else right now to help squelch all this, what's going on?
We are. We are doing something. And I think I explained to the people who will be watching on your TV station that we are doing something.
But nothing for those impacted directly, which is the Latino community in this case, correct?
We are making sure that the Latino community that we have here is safe. We are making sure that the Latino community can move about town just like anyone else in our community. Again, these are allegations made. These officers are innocent until proven guilty. Right. So whether they're Latinos, and the name calling to me only perpetuates a problem that we may not have in our community, because I don't think this is a systemic problem within our police department nor within our community. We are an open community. No matter how you twist and turn it.
I'm not twisting or turning your words. You just told me that tonight, when I asked you what are you doing for the Latino community.
Here we go. Go ahead. Go ahead. Make it sound whichever way reporters want it to sound.
Mayor.
Go for it.
Mayor.
Take your best shot.
Mayor.
Take your best shot. Go ahead.
I am not twisting words here.
Say it the whatever way you want.
Did you tell me
this makes great news.
Did you tell me that you were going to have tacos tonight?
I said I might do that, yeah.
I asked you about what are you going to do for your Latino community tonight.
And I said, after that, I explained myself, and I'll say it again, whether I have tacos tonight with the Latino community or spaghetti with the Italian community, the main thing we're doing is keeping our Latino community safe, our Italian community safe, our Irish community safe, and whatever else you want to toss in there. But you can twist it and turn it whichever way, or make it sound whichever way you want to the press.
I'll go with
that makes news.
I'll go with what you said originally, sir.
What about the... Well, thank God the election, the campaign, 2 years. 2 years of that, and thank goodness it's over. What did you think of the outcome?
Well, I don't get into politics too much. I think the other guy, the new guy, can you imagine, though, if the Iranians come crashing into the White House? Mr. President, the Iranians are attacking. Iraq is attacking. Anybody's attacking. 3 points. See, he was a basketball player, the new president. Hey, don't make me show cards, folks. Don't make me show cards. That's what the new president does. He's not going to be in office long. He's going to be walking around saying, there's going to be another war. Stop it, I'm dribbling.
Hello from New York, I'm Chris Hayes. With me this morning, I have MSNBC political analyst Michael Steele, Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers, Ari Berman from The Nation magazine, and Bob Herbert of the Demos think tank. We're talking about voter suppression efforts in Florida, and you laid out a case of how there is tremendous disproportional effect of the laws that were passed by Florida in terms of what constituencies they are most likely to suppress the vote of. Young voters, African-American voters particularly, and now with the new voter purge, Latino voters. Michael, what do you say when you hear this?
Well, I believe in having fair and open access to the ballot box. And I think that, like a lot of things in this country, that's underreported what happens on Election Day at various polling places around the country. I mean, people generally don't, highlight the problems that may occur. Now that there's a focus and an emphasis on those problems and trying to deal with them, I think that that's a good thing if it means that we're going to open up the process. For the GOP, I've always said, going back to when I was a state chairman and certainly as an elected official, don't be afraid of the ballot box. Don't be afraid of folks who go to the ballot box. Always be in a forward position of encouraging people to have access to that ballot box. Yes, we want a fair and open process, but let's open this thing up in a way that we're not then labeled as trying to suppress the vote, which we're not. I mean, rank and file Republicans are out there trying to suppress the vote. There is a general call for rehabilitating our electoral system. I happen to disagree with purging felons. I mean, I think there's on a case-by-case basis, you can make the argument for someone to come back into the system to be a part of the voting population. And so my broader point is, I think the party's kind of put itself into a rhetorical hotspot unnecessarily by creating an impression that our end goal is to tell black folks we don't want you to vote. And that is not the case at all.
I mean, but also let's just be clear about the way that American politics work. I mean, it is the case that 90% of voters voted for Barack Obama, African Americans, 92, something like that. There are certain constituencies, and this is particularly true of African American voters, that vote reliably for one party. Right. And so it is a strategic imperative, even if you are the most racially enlightened Republican in the universe, right, to not have to create obstacles for people that you know are going to vote against you to go to the polls.
But Chris, when you're voting at those percentages, 90-10, 98-2, it doesn't. You're not going to impact that vote to the point where, unless you can get that vote down to 60% or 50%, that's a heck of a lot of suppression. You're not going to impact.
I know, but these are most Florida. It doesn't take much to tilt the balance.
537 votes.
12,000 ineligible people, 12,000 eligible voters kicked off the rolls in 2000 in Florida. Right. That was 22 times the margin of victory for George W. Bush. And I have to say, one of the biggest lies perpetrated by the Republican Party, I think, in this election has been...
All those 12,000 people were going to vote for the other guy, too.
Well, 41% of them were African Americans. That was three times the number of African Americans in the state. They voted for...
Well, we know, but that's the point. We can't assume, because that's the key core truth about American politics is precisely that. You can assume.
Right. So where are, then... if that's the case, Michael, where are the corporate CEOs that will stand up and say this voter suppression is wrong, this anti-diversity is wrong? Where are people?
Well,
because look,
you
Chris,
set the premise.
Chris was the one who said.
You defined it with a negative. You defined the act as exclusively voter suppression.
I define it with a big negative. There's voter suppression in this country. The Republican Party is pushing it, and it is racist. And I cannot believe that there's anything.
I got to send you my story in Rolling Stone, the GOP war on voting.
Because look at what the Brennan Center. Aside from Ari, look at what has happened even in Florida. The moment that Scott was elected, Chris, a Republican, said, this is wrong. We're going to make sure that people get a second chance. Put all these folks back on the
felons.
vote. Right. Second, ex-felons.
Yes.
Ex-felons,
right.
And so the moment Scott gets elected, he says, we're going to start purging. The moment Walker gets elected, starts purging. You have, in 15 states since 2010, you see these kind of, with Republicans, these kind of voter suppression. Where is the outrage on the other side about that?
Can I also just make a broader point? There's no reason that in 2012 people should have to affirmatively register to vote.
No.
I'm sorry. Somehow, amazingly, the post office always knows where I live. And so does the cable. You know what I mean?
This is my biggest thing is whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, 9 million people weren't able to vote in 2008, according to MIT, for a variety of problems. Not knowing where their polling place is, not being on the voter rolls, et cetera, et cetera. Instead of making it easier for those 9 million to vote, we have now made it harder for 5 million people to vote. So if you care about democracy, no matter which party you represent, you should be concerned about how difficult it is.
It wasn't voting for Barack Obama.
It's not racism.
I am not prejudiced.
The Dutch national team held a training session in Krakow, an open training session where you had 25,000 people showing up. That they started, as is usual, with football teams by doing a few laps around the field. And this is when, according to Mark van Bommel, the Dutch national team captain, his group of players heard several monkey chants coming from a particular section of the crowd. He decided to stop the laps and direct the team to the other side of the pitch. And after that, on Thursday in a press conference, he explained exactly what happened. Now, there are other reports. UEFA said that they had contacted the Dutch national team to find out if indeed they had been subjected to racial abuse, and the Dutch Football Federation also said that they could not confirm what they had heard. Journalists also said they hadn't heard much at the stadium, but Mark van Bommel then replied at the press conference saying, "You need to open your ears. If you didn't hear it, that is even worse." So definitely a story we're following here on the ground. It's a shame. It's very sad that on the day before and on the day of the UEFA Euro 2012, we're talking about racist abuse and not football, Rosemary.
In this instance, as you point out, Pedro, of course, the Dutch team is the target. Let's look at other teams, perhaps, that might receive the same sort of unfortunate attention. How extensive is this sort of racism there?
Well, a lot of eyes will be on the English training session today, also in Krakow. It's not completely open to the public. It's a ticketed event for about 3,500 fans. Leading up to the tournament, there were various issues regarding violent and racist abuse of fans in and around football stadiums. Players were subjected to monkey chants. According to an anti-racism organization here, they said they had documented 195 cases of prejudice in stadiums over an 18-month period in the lead up to the event. Another story that has been emerging, Rosemary, from Krakow is that people are saying that the city and the fans are upset that Krakow wasn't picked as one of the host cities for the Euro, and local fans from the Wisła team decided to take it out on the Dutch side, initially booing them, but then, according to Mark van Bommel, part of that booing also included monkey chants.
So, Pedro, what are tournament organisers doing to try to stop this sort of level of racism?
Well, they've been working over the last few years on the ground. There's an organization called Football Against Racism in Europe, and they've joined forces with various local organizations as well on a grassroots education program. In a couple of hours, I can tell you that I'm actually going to the launch of a new program that UEFA is also participating in, and there'll be added efforts throughout the tournament to monitor these situations and to report them as well. The campaign is called Respect Diversity, Football Unites, and it's something which both organizers and local authorities and anti-racism campaigners hope will change the way that people in the region see ethnic minorities. So there is a joint effort, and there has been over the last few years. All I can say is that you don't change the mentalities of people from one day to the next.
To fight for jobs, to fight for tax cuts for the middle class, to fight for reforms that will rein in the special interests, and to fight for policies that aren't just going to rebuild this economy, but are actually going to put us on a long-term path to sustainable growth that exists for all Americans.
What planet have I landed on? Did I slip through a wormhole in the middle of the night and this looks like America? It's like the damn Planet of the Apes!
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
When President Obama made his bombshell announcement on gay marriage, Hollywood rejoiced.
President Obama just came out in support of same-sex marriage, and I say...
I could not be more proud that he is my president.
I was ecstatic. Now the president is reaping the rewards financially speaking. He just raised millions of dollars at 2 fundraisers thrown by Hollywood's gay community.
By coming out for gay marriage, he has mobilized his base in Hollywood.
Historian Stephen Ross, author of Hollywood Left and Right, says the president's reversal on same-sex marriage policy energized many celebrities who had been threatening to sit out the 2012 contest.
The minute he announced his support of gay marriage, they publicly changed their mind. Norman Lear, immediately he and his wife donated $40,000 each and will be active in the campaign again.
Openly gay actor Rex Lee, best known for Entourage, admits Hollywood had been disenchanted with the president before his announcement.
A lot of people that want to support him
were disappointed that he hadn't said anything up until now. So we're all glad he did it. As a gay man, I'm glad he did it.
I've been going through an evolution on this issue.
But some in the entertainment industry believe the president didn't go far enough.
It's a baby step. I wish we didn't always have to take baby steps.
Howard Stern faulted the president for leaving the future of gay marriage for individual states to decide.
I wish he would have been even stronger about it. I would like the president to really get behind this and push it.
By being so outspoken, celebrities may continue to drive the debate on same-sex marriage. But Hollywood's biggest influence on the public and the president may come from TV shows like Glee, Smash, True Blood, and Modern Family.
We happen to be a very traditional family.
It's the repetition of certain kind of images, the repetition of certain ways of looking at the world over and over again until they seem normal. I think this does begin to change the way people look at the world.
Just go to work, okay?
In Hollywood, I'm Kareen Winter.
Do you really believe I would have a nigger run our family business?
Evening again at 5:29. I'm Diana Williams.
And I'm Sade Better-Inwa. New this half hour, dozens of charges tonight against a man who claimed to be recruiting young men to do intelligence service, but instead, prosecutors say he tortured them, and there may be more victims out there. Eyewitness News reporter Marcus Solis is live at the courthouse in White Plains with more. Marcus, fill us in.
And Sade, prosecutors say the MO is always the same, the promise of a six-figure job overseas doing spy work. But police say there was no secret spy agency, only torture that could send the suspect to jail for over 100 years. Lawrence Batone walked into court this morning. He did not immediately come out. A judge significantly increased bail for the man who allegedly called himself Dr. Hunter. Batone is accused of torturing at least 5 young men who police say he conned into believing they were being recruited for an international spy service.
And he approaches the victim and says, I know you. I recognize you from someplace. I'm Dr. Hunter. I may have had you in one of my courses. And then it goes to the next level.
This is the shocking next level. Batone told the victims as secret agents they had to be trained to endure interrogations. This is evidence video from the late 1990s. Batone previously served 4 years in prison for torturing young black and Hispanic men in Connecticut, where he was a school teacher. Since his release, police say the 54-year-old has trolled malls in Westchester and Rockland and was such a presence at Westchester Community College, security believed he was a faculty member. Prosecutors say Batone whipped one victim with a rope until his back bled, removed 4 fingernails of another victim, and inserted pins under the nails of others. Yet another young man was cut twice on his back with a scalpel. Batone's lawyer had little comment after today's arraignment.
The fortunate thing about cases is we don't try them in the press or based on what people say. We try them in court, and that's my intention, is to try this case in court.
Batone is charged with 29 counts, including assault, unlawful imprisonment, and forcible touching. Police believe there are more victims.
Even if he just approached them and, whoever it was said, this doesn't sound real and didn't buy into it, we want to talk to everybody.
Well, police believe that Batone also worked towns in Connecticut, Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford. They're urging anyone who had any contact with the suspect to contact them, the Westchester County Police. And we're live in White Plains. Marcus Solis, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Am I sexually attracted to underage boys?
In Waterbury, there are new details on the teacher put on paid leave after being accused of making a racist remark. The woman is a math teacher at the North End Middle School. Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Susan Raff talked to parents and is live with the mobile newsroom in Waterbury at the school now with more. Susan?
The teacher in question allegedly referred to a student here at the middle school as a black boy. Now, we've learned today that this student complained to his parents, and his parents complained to the school. The teacher who allegedly made a racist remark is Kathleen Pyle. She's a math teacher. Eyewitness News has been told she couldn't remember a child's name in her class and referred to him as Black Boy. How would you feel if somebody said that to you?
Upset.
Yeah. Do you think it was right that they complained?
If it was okay to be complained, yeah.
A spokesperson for Waterbury Public Schools says Piles has been at the school for only about a year and came from Kentucky. Paul Guidone says we do not tolerate or condone the claimed behavior from our staff. And if the allegation of making racist remarks is proven true, the district will take appropriate action.
She doesn't seem like a racist person. She was nice.
This 8th grader says she was surprised to hear about the alleged comment, although she says she wouldn't like it if she were referred to by the color of her skin. Do you hope that something can be learned from this?
Yeah.
What?
Just, I don't know what she said to him, but it's just don't be racist.
School officials tell us while they are investigating this alleged remark by this teacher, they're doing something which many may consider proactive. The school officials tell us they're going to gather parents, teachers, and students here next week to do what they say, learn more about cultural sensitivity. We're live at the mobile newsroom in Waterbury. Susan Raff, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Do you hear that? It's the sound of battles fought and lives lost. It once pained me to know that I am the cause of such despair. But now, their cries give me strength. Beauty is my power. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is fairest of them all?
You are the fairest, but there is another destined to surpass you. Consume her heart and you shall live forever.
Find me someone who doesn't fear the dark forest to hunt her down.
Why is she of such value?
That is none of your concern.
If I refuse?
Lips red as blood, hair black as night. Bring me your heart, my dear Snow White.
Springfield police are investigating what looks like a racially motivated attack on a teen. Good evening, I'm Brady Smith.
And I'm Brian Richardson. A man and 3 teens are charged in the incident. KEZI 9 News reporter Jennifer Richardson is live in the studio to explain what happened in our top story at 6. Jennifer?
Police say a man and a group of teens in a pickup truck chased down the 15-year-old black teen. We spoke to the teen's mom over the phone. She says she is still shaken and appalled something like this could happen. Even the mayor is speaking out about the incident.
It was Memorial Day evening, about 8:30. A 15-year-old black teen waited for his mom to pick him up near 5th and South A Street in Springfield. That's when police say a truck rolled up, driven by Matthew Booster, with 2 17-year-olds and a 16-year-old inside. Investigators say those inside the truck started yelling racial slurs and threats at the teen.
He realized how alone he was out there at night. There were no vehicles, no other people around.
Police say Booster tried to run the teen over with a pickup.
They were threatening his life, threatening with physical injury, calling him racial names.
Booster and the teens even allegedly got out of the truck and chased the victim.
They were going to injure him.
The teen hid and finally spotted his mom.
He was very upset and traumatized by it, as was his mother.
Police tracked down all 4 suspects. 3 were sent to the juvenile facility.
Oh, it could have been a lot worse. It's very concerning, and it's disappointing. I mean, to think that today we're still having these types of issues.
Springfield Mayor Christine Lundberg is outraged this happened in her city.
Disgusted and pretty much sums up how I feel, appalled that we have had a crime of this nature.
And for her, silence wasn't an option.
How unacceptable and how we seem to come so far and yet have not come anywhere at all.
The juveniles have been released to the custody of their parents. Booster was transferred to the Lane County Jail today because prosecutors are filing felony charges against him. Live in the studio, Jennifer Richardson, KEZI 9 News.
Before Booster went on the drive that police say led to his arrest, he called Brandon Ricker and invited him along.
He was telling me he was going to go chase down this black kid who was throwing up gang signs at him.
Ricker says Booster sounded pretty angry on the phone.
Yeah, he was mad because, he flipped him off and threw up gang signs.
Ricker decided not to go on the ride.
I guess I just told him it's stupid. Just go back home, just go watch TV, play video games, come over and hang out with me.
Booster went anyway. Police say he and his 3 teenage passengers found the victim near 5th and South A Street in Springfield. The victim told police the suspect circled the block yelling racial slurs and threatening him. When the victim tried to get away, the group allegedly chased him, and he says they even tried to hit him with the truck. Ricker says he heard that part from police, but says he doesn't think it was intentional.
I just think that's just stupid.
Do you think it's possible?
Maybe on accident, but like the kid getting bruises and stuff like that, maybe from like running and tripping on loose gravel, like I highly doubt they, tried to run him over.
Ricker says he feels that maybe he should have tried harder to stop Booster from going on the drive, but he's glad he didn't get caught up in it.
This like kind of betrays me because like I've been in trouble for stuff like this before, and I've learned my lesson.
He thinks now Booster might learn his.
I ran that nigger over.
Latest on George Zimmerman. The man charged in the killing of Trayvon Martin is back behind bars this morning after a Florida judge revoked his bond for lying to the court about his finances. ABC's Matt Gutman has covered this case from the start, and he's back in Sanford, Florida this morning. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, George. It's not clear how long Zimmerman will be forced to remain in the jail behind me. We have learned this morning that in just a couple of hours, his attorney, Mark O'Mara, will file for another motion for bail. Still, it is possible that Zimmerman could be forced to remain here for the duration of the trial. That could be through 2014.
This morning, George Zimmerman is waking up in a 9x7 cell in isolation after being ordered back to jail by a judge Friday. Sheriff's deputies paraded him in front of camera Sunday in shackles and in a bulletproof vest.
George, what'd you lie about the money?
George, you know about that money?
Police later released this booking photo. Zimmerman's hair longer, his face fleshier than when he was charged on April 11th with the second-degree murder of Trayvon Martin. Zimmerman's attorney told ABC News overnight his client dreaded going back to jail.
He didn't like it when he was there. He's frustrated still by the process that he has to, in effect, in his own mind, prove his innocence.
Zimmerman was ordered back into lockup Friday during a fireworks-filled hearing.
Revoke his bond, please.
The prosecution accusing Zimmerman and his wife, Shelley, of knowingly deceiving the court about how much money they had to pay for his bail.
I, quite frankly, from the state position, will flat out call it what it is. The defendant's wife lied to this court. She stated she had no money when, in fact, the records show that she did.
Yet, in his April 20th bail hearing, Zimmerman didn't say a word about the money.
As far as his financial abilities, unfortunately, this is a family of very short means.
But prosecutors say the couple not only knew about how much money they'd amassed from this website created to support him, they talked about it in code over a jailhouse phone.
They were using code words, thinking that the police are just going to be real stupid.
According to the court documents, the couple discussed having $8.60 in one account when they really meant $86,000. Their attorney tells ABC News the couple now intends to apologize to the judge.
It's not, again, like they were trying to hide the money or leave with the money. They just had it and thought that they needed to be able to secure themselves.
Now, about that legal fund, George, ABC News has learned it has $193,000 still in it. Thousands of dollars have been spent on living expenses, but the money is still rolling in at about the rate of $1,000 a day. And get this, George, the money has spiked since George Zimmerman was ordered back to jail on Friday.
George. Okay, Matt, thanks very much.
It happened like right when the sun goes down completely, so it was really dark and there was no moonlight out because it had just rained and only one porch light was on. I was walking my dog and I heard screaming when I walked outside, so I went to where I heard it and it was behind about 20 to 25 yards from behind my house, and I looked and I saw someone laying on the ground and I heard someone yelling for help, and then my dog, he got off the leash and I went to go grab him, and then when I grabbed my dog I heard a shot, and right when I heard the shot the screaming stopped, so I went inside and I told my sister and she called 911. The police arrived and I later found out that the person who got shot died. I'll think about what if I would have went over there if the person still would have got shot. No, I just think that sometimes people get stereotyped, and I fit into this stereotype as the person who got shot.
But Darius didn't. Darius was innocent. He was at school, and he got gunned down for something that he didn't do.
Anger and grief from the family of a 13-year-old Milwaukee boy shot and killed outside his Southside home. A 75-year-old neighbor has been charged in the boy's death. 13-year-old Darius Simmons was killed near 20th and Arrow Thursday. WISN 12 News' Mike Anderson joins us live from the Milwaukee County Jail tonight. Mike, the suspect is still in custody.
Shelby, the 75-year-old neighbor, made his first court appearance today, and his bail was set at $300,000. Meanwhile, the family of the victim continues to wrestle with grief.
Heal whatever they're feeling, Father God.
You can see what Patricia Larry is feeling. This is the pain of a mother who watched her son, 13-year-old Darius Simmons, shot down right in front of her house, right in front of her eyes.
We ask you to bless Darius's family.
Prayer and the loving arms of family seem to be the only thing holding her up. Her sister Betty McQuiston took the mic for her.
The mom just wants everyone to know that the day someone supposed to have broken her neighbor's house, her son was at school, and Darius was innocent. He did not break into his neighbor's house, but he shot him because he thought that he broke in his house.
75-year-old John Spooner appeared in court Saturday for the first time to face charges of first-degree intentional homicide. According to court documents, he accused the boy of stealing guns from his house. Patricia Larry says her son was shot in cold blood.
And his mom wants everyone to know that he had his hands up, standing in front of him when he shot him. And then he turned to run, and he shot him again in his back.
The family says it's hurting, but it's also angry for several reasons. One, the mother says she was detained for questioning in a squad car and unable to go to the hospital to be with her son before he was pronounced dead.
I don't think she should have been in the back of a police car, and her son just got shot. And then we're more so angry that people can walk around with guns and feel like they can take the law into their own hands.
WISN 12 News did reach out to the police via email for a response on the mother being questioned in the squad car. We did not get an immediate response. Live in Milwaukee, Mike Anderson, WISN 12 News.
Sad story. All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
Context of White Supremacy. Justice Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Thank you everybody for tuning in to the program. I hope it is a constructive investment of your evening. Today's date, Saturday, June 9th. 2012, so I have been told. Compensatory call-in. We will hit the phone lines. If there are folks out who want to share views, non-white people who want to share their views, research, observations, new concepts, anything that would help us to become less confused, move towards replacing white supremacy with justice immediately. This is the time to share, and or non-white people who are out there who are feeling isolated, who are looking forward to an opportunity to getting better, speaking precisely, using words in the best way possible to articulate the system of white supremacy and how to go about solving this problem. Definitely want non-white people participating. We will be back on Monday, next broadcast Monday, June 11th. Kristen Harrison, white woman. She is a professor at the University of Michigan. She was one of the white women who did the study on how television boosts the self-esteem of white men. Kristen Harrison. Someone in the chat room, they posted the report about that study last week, and getting down this Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. She will be here. She's done quite a bit of research on racism, but Very important study in my view. Lots of violence, the Snow White, that sort of thing. All of that somehow makes white men feel better. And her research also shows that unfortunately has the opposite impact on non-white people, for black people, non-white people, and females. Television hampers your self-esteem, your self-image. Shouldn't be that big a surprise. Plop your child in front of Charlize Theron, Prometheus, Snow White, whatever it may be, even if she's just on giving an interview about adopting a new little black child and how much fun that is. Probably not going to make you feel too good about being a black person, particularly when that's spliced in between. Oh, look, black people have put their black child in a washing machine. Don't you wish Charlize Theron was adopting you? That'll be this Monday. Before we hit the phone line, I'll give out the number, 760-569-7676, and the code is 564-943#. Press star 6 if you're on that line and you have questions. The folks that are on the talk shoe line, it is star 8. I'm not sure. There might be white people in the chat room. I'll check on that. Give me a few moments, see if there are any. Alrighty, got it. Yeah, this is, not really intended for white people to come and be terroristic. This is one of the reasons why I typically have the chat room closed. This had happened before. White people come. This has even happened back when we were at the other site. The white people come and do what they do, trifling, terroristic, tacky, just to be disruptive. And, this is not... It's not for you all, Chimp Out, I'm sure, is up and running. You can go hang out over there. Stormfront, you all got all your sites covered. You can go over there and talk about how dumb and ignorant black people are. At the end of the day, though, the question is, yes, we're ignorant and lazy and stupid, blah, blah, blah. Okay, all that's true. What should be done with us? That's it. That's all you have to get to. So, yeah, if any of the other folks pop up, I will mute them. Not really interested in hearing what they have to say about us solving problems. Yeah, we're not wasting time on all that. Been to your website, savewhitepeople.com, if you need some other websites to go to, and maybe you can go hook up with some of your other white men, white women, exchange some racist jokes. Do that for your evening. At any rate, a couple things I did want to touch on before I hit the phone lines. I do see the hands on the talk shoe line. I'll get you all, and anybody on the free HD line as well. Number one, the clip that was talking about the racism amongst enforcement officers in the UK, that is part of a large clip, large segment. It's on BBC Radio 4. BBC Radio 4. You can check out that whole program. I would highly recommend it. It is about 40 minutes, and it gives a lot of details. It gives specific cases where black enforcement officers were targeted, subjected to racism. You heard a little bit in the clip. Great clip. And giving you the contrast so that people who are listening don't just think, oh, racism is just an American problem. No, it is a global system. And I hope that this goes a long way to evidence when I ask rhetorically, what does it mean to be a white person? Worldwide, these folks are doing a lot of the same things with regards to the way that they practice racism and white supremacy. It's not just in Mississippi. It's not just in Florida. It's not just in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, where the young black male was shot and killed. Same behavior patterns worldwide. That should mean something. That to me suggests white people got a worldwide code book where they're doing and saying a lot of similar things to maintain their system of domination. Very important. Check that clip out on BBC Radio 4. Next, most of the clips that you heard, I try to be current and just have stuff that happened in the last 7 days, right? So I think everything in that clip that you heard took place in the last 7 to 8 days or so. One exception, the clip about the swimming pool white supremacy, talk about tackiness. That is from 2009 in Pennsylvania. The only reason I included that, you heard before the segment where the black Navy SEAL was talking about it's not racism. It's why we don't have very many black Navy SEALs. But he was saying his second reason to explain this was that many black people are not comfortable in the water or they're not good swimmers. I was remembering there have been so many incidents of black people, even Robert F. Williams, if you watch his documentary, Negroes with Guns, my apologies, it's Negroes with Guns. If you watch his documentary, a big part of what they were fighting about in North Carolina was white people were not allowing black people to access the pool. It was a public pool. They were using tax dollars from black people that lived there, but they weren't allowing them to use the pool. So that was a part of what prompted them to become more active in working against white supremacy in that area. In looking for a clip to evidence how even if black people are not comfortable in the water, even that is because of racist man, racist woman, racist child, I was looking, and the first link that I saw was white signs up in a pool in Ohio, whites only. And I was thinking, what? The incident that I remember that's more recent, that was in Pennsylvania, which the sound clip that you heard, it was in Pennsylvania. And I kept seeing this in Ohio, and it was from 2011. I'm like, what is this? You got a white woman in Ohio last year. You don't have to go back 50 years, back to Robert F. Williams and the 60s or anything. Last year, 2011, you got a white woman in Ohio. Apparently, whatever the residential situation is, there's a pool next to this white woman's residence, and other people have access to the pool. I don't know if she owns it or if she is the guardian of the pool. Somehow, she seems to have the ability to regulate access to the pool. She hangs a sign on the fence to the pool that says, whites only, and they got photographs of this. This is 2011, and so this little black child sees it, or she just sees the pool. She wants to go swimming, so she goes to tell her father, "Hey, Dad, I'm trying to go swimming." Dad, goes to chaperone her, sees the sign, and it's like, "What in the world?" So they make a report about this, and a group of white people in Ohio, they get together and decide, this is really racist. You got to take that down. This white woman. She is still fussing. Like, this story is even continuing into 2012. For anyone who's saying, there's no racism, this is old news. This white woman is complaining in 2012 that she thinks it's wrong, that they're making her take this sign down, and she's alleging that she collects antiques, and she thought it was great memorabilia for an era gone by just to put it up. She thought it was funny. Again, tacky, trifling, terroristic. At any rate, next incident, Don Rickles. Speaking of tacky, trifling, and terroristic, that was another segment that was not current. Don Rickles was the one who was making jokes on the David Letterman program about President Obama being a basketball player and him not being able to function appropriately in the White House. Don Rickles, the only reason that I played that segment, just this week, a couple days ago, he was reported, he was apparently making some jokes, again, about President Obama. And, of course, he says, President Obama, he was supposed to come by my house and visit, but the mop was broken. And white people, hey, Don Rickles, you could make these sort of jokes out in public, and we still loved them 50 years ago, but now, 2012, refinement of white supremacy, you're not really supposed to be making these sort of jokes out on television. You're not supposed to go on the Late Show and make these sort of jokes. You're not supposed to come out in public at big functions that are going to be photographed and televised and make those sort of comments. Got to kind of save that for when there's no niggas around. Then we can tell those jokes, or go online to some of the websites and post them. You can't really do this out front. You're going to see some white people throw him under the bus, be like, oh, he's racist. They'll probably use the excuse, oh, he's old. He's 85 years old, and he just doesn't understand. Time has passed him by. Just an old white guy. You just got to, let that be gone. He's just an old white guy. He's about to be dead. Don't even worry about that. Next segment, the Springfield incident. This was Springfield, Oregon. Again, worldwide pattern where this group of white people, they chased this black teenager down last week. It was reported this week, but they chased him down last week. They said on Memorial Day, chased him with their vehicle, apparently got out of the vehicle and chased him further. Just, as I've been saying all year, you really got to be on alert. This is no time to be slipping on what you're doing and not paying attention. The terrorism is escalating. As I think we've been saying all year, I suspect there are going to be more of these sorts of incidents. You really got to be paying attention to what's going on, because it is just really, as long as we're on the plantation, white people, I think, are creating an environment where it's just going to be more and more acceptable to brutalize and be directly violent with non-white people. And this was a teenager. Really be talking to your children about being careful, being alert, paying attention if they see anything suspicious, and what to do. A codified plan about what to do if a group of white people should come, if a single white person, if it's an enforcement officer. You really want to be serious about these times, having discussions with your children and older non-white people, having as many dialogues as you can. Get some of these news articles and share them. If you got teenagers and they go out, share some of these reports. This didn't happen in Mississippi, for people saying, oh, that's just in the South, those crazy crackers down in Alabama or Mississippi. No. This was in Oregon. Granola land, what they say. Liberal white people, what they say. Share some of these reports and let people know. Wisconsin, Milwaukee, you heard the 13-year-old who was shot and killed. Let people know so that they can do a better job of being alert and being prepared. No time to be slipping on your counter-racist code, particularly just about being mindful about what's going on, particularly if you are around white people. I will point out one thing from that clip, share an article, and then I will mute myself and let folks do their thing. The white male that they spoke to, he's one of the friends of one of the white people that was arrested in this case in Oregon, where they chased this black teenager. He said, I thought this was so revealing, and one of the listeners caught this as well, where he commented and he said that, I've been in trouble for this type of stuff before. And I just thought, wow, if I had been the interviewer or the reporter, I would have had some follow-up questions like, what are you saying? Are you saying that you've chased some black people down before? Are you saying that you've terrorized some non-white people before? Is that what you're saying? Is this standard behavior? Like you, your friends, the people that you all hang out with? Have you all done this sort of thing before? I just would want some clarification about exactly what sort of trouble you've been in before. What exactly were you doing where you got in trouble that would lead you to say that you've done this sort of thing before? Very important. I hope people were paying attention to that segment. Last thing I'll share before I hit the phone lines, get folks on so they can give their views or what have you on any of the news segments that we heard, or any other observations, research, codified concepts. This is from one of our listeners, and I've said before, it's very important. We got to get comfortable being uncomfortable and just being honest with ourselves. I think honesty is super important. I think I said on the program yesterday that we have all been contaminated with the virus of white supremacy. And I wouldn't care who you are, how codified you think you are, how many hours you spent listening to counter-racism, studying, reading literature, Dr. Africa, Amos Wilson. I don't care. You are under racism, white supremacy. If you're on the plantation, you got that white virus in you too. And just being honest about that, when Dr. Cambon, when he says that we have been contaminated on a cellular level, like really think about that, digest it and what that means. I will share. This is from a listener, her sharing her experience, and then we'll move to the phone lines. Listener wrote, I want to share something with you that happened this past Thursday. I was shopping at the dollar store the other day when a young black male walked in. I immediately became suspicious simply because his beard and hair looked to be uncombed. Gus, the cashier, was a little, old, feeble, frail-looking and sounding white woman. Gus, can you believe I began thinking to myself, how will this little old lady be able to handle him if he steals something? Can you believe that? I began having an argument within myself. One part of me was saying, oh God, I hope he doesn't steal something. Why is he looking around like that? Oh God, he's going to make black people look bad if he steals something. The other part of me was saying, you are acting like a white person. How can you do all of these counter-racist things, and when you see a black male with what you say is uncombed hair, you become suspicious like white people? You are looking at him through the eyes of white people. You are a hypocrite, and yet you talk so big and bold to family and friends about the system of racism, white supremacy. Gus, I watched him like a hawk, watching its soon-to-be meal. I scanned every move that guy made. I was watching for two reasons: fear of him stealing from the store and or customers, and fear that if he did, he would make black people look bad to white people. I'm snickering to myself. No judgment. I'm just snickering to myself in terms of the contamination, because I don't know if I would think, or if I've ever been in the store and thought that a person might steal from some of the other customers. But I appreciate the honesty. Like I said, we got to be comfortable being uncomfortable and just acknowledging how damaged we have all been by racism, white supremacy. But I do think that's kind of funny. Anyway, I began thinking to myself, not only is the cashier not watching him, I don't even think she is aware that he is in the store. But don't worry, Miss Massa. I have got your back. I'll watch him for you, because I am an automatic pilot to hate my own people just like you taught me. I'm a good slave. You'll be so proud of me. Gus, all those things were going through my mind simultaneously. I finally decided to mind my business and continue my shopping. I guess because he wasn't stealing fast enough, I decided to move on, sort of. As I began walking away, I glanced over my shoulders a couple of times at him until he was out of sight. There was some momentary comfort that he didn't grab and run, and he, so far, hadn't followed the racist stereotype code that the media and racist man and racist woman have taught me to believe about young black males. Gus, when I had finished my shopping and proceeded to the checkout line, he was there in front of me. He had his $20 bill on the counter ready to pay for his goods. Gus, a sigh of relief had come over me. I was happy that he had not stolen anything. I was happy that he made me feel good. I was happy that he had made black people look good to this $6 an hour, poor, feeble, frail, bad dye job white woman who probably had not even known he was in the store prior to coming to the counter. But I knew. That's right, Miss Massa. Begging your pardon, I was on 'em for you just like you taught me. I was your hound dog. I watched and sniffed him out for you. Gus, that depiction referring to myself as a hound dog might be on the dramatic side, but that is how I felt. I was seeking out this black male for Miss Massa, who didn't even have to ask me. I know my duty as a slave. Me, the counter-racist, the one that can quote Mr. Fuller, Dr. Welsing, you, Pam, and others. Me, the one who bombards your email daily with article after article about what racist man and racist woman are doing to us around the world. Me, who can tell my family and friends the codes, symbols, and language that white people use to maintain their racist system. Me, who would get so upset that my father would defend white people to the nth degree. I could not even talk to my father for days because he would upset me so bad defending a white person who had proven to hate us. Gus, I don't know if you've noticed in several of my emails, I like to make parallels between what we are going through and certain passages in the Bible. Minister Malcolm did that too. I am not one of those counter-racists who despise the Bible or its teachings. My experience this Thursday took my mind to a passage in the Bible where Jesus was teaching the people about the truth and how it is received. He referred to the truth being a seed and the hearers of the truth, their hearts being soil. He talks about when the sower sows seed, the truth, the different types of places or soil, hearts, the seed falls on, and the result. Gus, all of us are hearers of the word of truth that you speak, Pam speaks, Mr. Fuller speaks, Dr. Welsing speaks, and many, many others regarding ourselves as victims. The system of racism, white supremacy, and racist man and racist woman. Some of us hear these truths and don't believe. Some of us hear these truths and believe while you are speaking it, but when they walk away, they don't think about it anymore. Some of us hear the truth and believe it and go out to compel others, but when a white person says or does something nice to them, gives them money, or gives them employment, they forsake that truth. Some of us hear the truth, believe it, feel alive, tell everyone about it, put action behind their beliefs, and are down for the cause. But that white chip is still active in even the most codified person. It is good to have experiences happen to test you and see where you are weak. We have been born under and shaped by this continuing, non-stop, 24/7 cesspool called racism, white supremacy. It was around before our great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents were born. We were born in it, conceived in it, carried in the womb in it, delivered in it, taught in it, played in it, found love, in quotes, in it, worked in it, and our thoughts, beliefs, habits, and cares of this world are shaped by it. I have a significant amount of years of my life with this drug called racism, white supremacy in my veins, and only a little over a year listening to the C.O.W.S, Sober and Clean. The other day I had a war going on inside of me. The thing that I have preached to others not to do, I found myself doing. Some would say hypocrite, I would say victim. I fell down that day, but I got up. I assessed myself. Hypocrites don't do those things. One good thing that came out of this is that I recognized my shortcomings. It helped me to see that I have to be more patient with others. I'm not deterred one bit about what and who the problem is. I feel it was the Creator showing me just how deep that chip is embedded in my brain, and I suspect others' brains as well. Thank you for indulging me. I had to email to someone about this who I feel would understand and not judge me. The end. I thanked this victim and commended them for being so honest, because I think a lot of us have similar moments. I know all of us have similar moments, and it's easy to just kind of kick that to the side and not think about it, pretend it didn't happen. I think a lot of us, we get in that habit once we become a little less confused about racism, white supremacy, and get to talking real loud and tough to non-white people who are confused and putting our finger in our face and letting them know, and confused Negroes like you, why we can't solve this problem. And all of us are still struggling. We're all still on the plantation. We all are still trying to just do the best we can from a very weak position. And I think it's very helpful to keep that in perspective, to be as humble as you can be, given the circumstances, because we really don't have anything to be bragging or boasting about while we're still slaves on the plantation. And I just think that that sort of self-reflection is extremely valuable. And I think that's the sort of thing that we should all be making an effort to do, just kind of evaluating the little thoughts that we have about ourselves, about other black people. I think Dr. Umar Johnson, when he was on the program not too long back, he said that your thought diet is more important than your food diet. And I think this is right in line. Just really being mindful what you're thinking about, how you think about other black people, how you think about yourself, how you think about white people. Very important. And when you have those moments where you recognize, oh, that's part of my contamination, that's part of my victimization, just recognize that and work to do better. You know, the next time that I got that, I'm going to try and catch it quicker so that I'm not thinking that way about, you know, a black person. I wouldn't care what that black person is doing. I wouldn't care if they went in and stole the whole store. They are a victim. That's what racism, white supremacy produces. And if anyone should feel bad, it should be racist man, racist woman, and racist child for producing black people who behave like this. My 2 cents. Thank you again for the listener for sharing. Again, huge commendation for just being able to be that honest and to share with other people. As I said, it would have been real easy to ignore it, act like it didn't happen, and just keep on rolling. But thank you for sharing, and I'm sure every single person out there listening, if you're non-white, can relate. I will hit the phone lines. I think we might have, one of the terrorist white people on the line. I'll check that one first, get rid of them, and then we'll rock on. The person, CP, Mamma Mia.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Are you a white person, non-white person?
I am a non-white person.
Okay, groovy. Good to hear from you. I'll open up the other folks' lines and I'll mute myself, but your line is still open. I'm just opening up. This might be Pumpkin, caller in Brooklyn. Your line is open as well. CP Mamma Mia, feel free to share.
Okay, two things I wanted to share. The first one is, I love your show. I've been listening to it and growing and becoming, I feel, more codified day by day, hour by hour. And I was thinking about, that's a nursery rhyme or song that my mother used to sing to her children, and I sang it to mine. And, it goes like this: go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleepy baby, I love you, and, so forth. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about how religion is used, I think, to put non-white people to sleep. I listened to some of your shows and archives about Jim Jones and the massacre happened in the 70s, drinking the Kool-Aid and being put to sleep. And I think about it's even more stronger. I think, the racist white people use a lot of things, but I think they really use religion. And I also think that I'm getting a little confused about white people. I think some non-white people have been made honorary white people. Specifically, I'm thinking of some Japanese. They have a form of Japanese Buddhism, has a lot of celebrities. It was made famous by Tina Turner, and What's Love Got to Do with It when she started chanting. And a close family member of mine belonged to that. It's headed by Japanese, and it's a lot of black people, in that religion, and it just reminds me of that song. It lulls them, it gives them a false sense, and it makes them not even want to become codified, and so I just wanted, some of the listeners and just opinion on that. And so for me, I know that Japanese are, I guess, considered non-white people, but they employ a lot of the same methodology that white people use. And I'm just wondering, if they are now included in that category of white people.
This is her husband, and I'm the person that she was speaking about chanting, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. But I really feel that it can be, I really feel that it's beneficial, and the Cow show, I really like a lot of it, and I use Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to eradicate some of the illusions that I have, So I really feel that I'm on the right track. You see?
Can I say something? I have not noticed, and I don't believe that the Japanese non-white people have suddenly become white people. And I don't think religion in and of itself is the issue. The problem is what white people tend to do with religion. they will convert to the religion of a non-white people, come in, begin to usurp it. If there are any universal ideologies in that religion, you can count on white people to take advantage of that. That does not necessarily mean that Japanese people or any other non-white people practicing Buddhism have suddenly become white.
Right. We all got our own karma, and we all have our own destiny. Me as a black person, 63 years old, I've been to Vietnam and been through a lot of hardships and stuff. I realized that I am on the right track. I can help another human being, or say, I'll put it this way. I can't help another human being until I can help myself feel like my old self or the greater self. So I'm going to get there. Right now I have a stomach virus, and I'm real, out of sorts. But we're going to win. You keep doing it, spreading your words around, and I'm going to do it the way and using in that context of white supremacy turned into justice. I'm going to do just that in my Buddhist practice. Now, my wife might not understand what I'm doing and what I'm saying because we've been married for over 20 years. You see, but I have the fortune to just know about this Nam-myoho-renge-kyo and be able to change something, even if it's a little something,
Can I ask you a question, sir?
Yeah.
Do you suspect that any of your white co-religionists may practice racism, white supremacy?
Well, I think it is inherited in that aspect, but I don't think that white people that chant Nam-myoho-renge-kyo have other alternatives. Sure, we rub up against each other. We do this against each other. But I feel that when we do get together and we chant, things open up. I have Japanese friends. I have Korean friends. I have black friends. And it's a multicultural. It's multicultural. And when everybody can get together and do that as a multicultural, whatever it is, we are going to have victory.
There is no dialogue on racism at all. That is still very much taboo.
Right, because first we focus on what's going to make the individual happy.
But can I ask
what or what's going to make him use more of his full potential?
Well, have you ever listened to any of the programs, the Yurugu study sessions?
But what? Say that again?
Have you listened to any of the previous C.O.W.S programs on the Yurugu study sessions?
Have I, Carol?
No.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, if you get a chance, I'm going to recommend this. I'm not very familiar with Buddhism. I knew one black person when I was in my teens who I worked with who was a Buddhist. So I'm not as familiar with that as I am with Christianity. But if you get a chance, it was yesterday's program, but I suggest going to the one before that a couple weeks back. They're called the Yurugu Study Sessions. And it's a book by Marimba Ani, excellent African female scholar. But she talks about the way that white supremacy works in the area of religion and how the white supremacists use religion as well as the thought of, universalism, we're all one body. Not necessarily that something's inherently flawed with that desire, but she focused on how the white supremacists have used that to maintain their dominance.
Of course. And that goes...
When you get a chance, I just recommend listening to that, and whatever it is, you're more familiar with Buddhism than I am. But when you listen to that, just see if you hear anything, in that reading, in that discussion that sparks off a thought in you regarding the realm that you're in.
Exactly. Well, for me, I chant to bring out my higher life condition. I chant for family members. I chant for my friends, and I see a change in their circumstances or situations. Because it's the universal law, period. And I realized that I've heard universality brought about by in the cows so many times, the universe, you know. So I feel as if I can use what I have in my Buddhist practice to change the course of mankind, period, or humankind.
Excuse me, speaking of which, because I feel like for me this religion uses a lot of flowery words, and since I've becoming codified, you know, I listen to my husband when he recites certain things, and one thing that stuck out in my mind that I was going to ask about is humankind. What is humankind? I mean, I think I'm familiar with human beings, but I noticed they use that in a lot of their words. They're big on that particular word, humankind. So, you know, could someone help me decode that? What is humankind?
I'm not sure what it means in a particular religion. I know that that's something I hear white people say a lot when they try to make us think we're all the same, we're all in this together, though they continue practicing racism and mistreating the non-white majority. I don't know what it means. I know when I speak of humans, since becoming more codified and more informed about racism, white supremacy, how white people practice it in their history, I have a problem referring to white people as humans. I really do, because my observation is that no matter where they go and what they're doing, they seem to be at war with the earth and with everything living on it. So, and
yes, right. You're absolutely correct. And what that is greed, anger, and stupidity. One of those three, or all of the three: greed, anger, or stupidity. So, in this Buddhist practice that I do, it's called Soka Gakkai International. It says a great human revolution in just a single individual will help achieve a change in the destiny of all nations, of a nation, and further will enable a change in the destiny of all humankind.
Can I ask my second comment? I just want to make my second comment. Thank you, Teddy. Second comment is I've been listening to the programs, and I wish the last one I've been listening with my 12-year-old was the one, I think it was last year, with Rio. And so my daughter, we're listening to the cows, the children. It's very good. She will listen to that. She loves that, and I just wanted to make a comment that she's becoming codified as well. She loves animal crackers, and today she was eating animal crackers, and she noticed that they did not have dogs. They had other animals, and just the whole thing, all that is was eating, you know, animals. And she asked me why they didn't have dogs, and I told her, you know, I mean, even though we have a dog, but non-whites have a special affinity for dogs. And then she, you know, made that connection and said, well, wow, that must be why, you know, possibly they don't have dogs in the animal crackers. I mean, they got other, you know, so becoming codified, you know, I see it keeps your brain, it keeps my brain working all the time, and it keeps my daughter's brain working in ways that I just couldn't have imagined it like 6 months ago.
I haven't seen about the animal crackers in a while, but aren't they animals?
Yeah, well, they don't come. I think they still sell them in the box, but now they sell them in a bag.
I've seen them in a box.
Are you talking about?
Oh, they do still sell them in the box with the little handle that's made out of a string.
I've seen
that.
But
they also sell them in bags, and guess what? They don't have the dogs in there. There are no dogs in animal crackers.
The ones in the bag, do they have white frosting on them and pink frosting and little sprinkles?
Sometimes you can get those with the sprinkles. Sometimes they just come plain. The original ones is what my daughter is saying. So that they have no dogs in it, and you know, and so that's just something that I just wanted to mention and to continue with the children's programs, because you know I think that's something good for children to listen to and constructive.
Right on. I did want to get in really quick. It was mentioned about stupidity, and that's something that I think that is very dangerous. Non-white people thinking that white people are practicing racism, white supremacy out of ignorance, or that some sort of stupidity or lack of knowledge is motivating them to practice racism, white supremacy. And I have concluded nothing could be further from the truth, and it is very dangerous. I've seen that over and over again. Non-white people thinking that white people are stupid or ignorant or uninformed, and they end up being the ones who don't have enough information, principally about white people, and it ends up getting the non-white person in trouble. My sound effect.
If anyone is ignorant about racism, it's black people.
That would be number one. Number two would be I spent a couple days at a Buddhist temple for Chinese New Year, no less, this year. We did a whole one-day study session the day before Chinese New Year. Spent the whole day at the Buddhist temple, ate all the meals there that day, did deep meditation, some chanting, all that stuff. There were white people present, and I can tell you, we were supposed to we had like 45-minute sessions where you're just supposed to sit quietly and meditate, and the fact that there were white people present was such a distraction for me. I could not really blank my mind out because I just kept thinking, and I was sitting close to one of the white people, and I was just like, man, this is not going to work. This is not going to work at all. There's nothing you could do that would, get me to think, oh no, you're not, a racist white supremacist, that you're authentic. Hang on one second, sir. Hang on. We got to the end of the day, the first day that I was there, and the white guy ended up coming up talking to me. And he says, are you a Muslim? And I'm just looking at this guy like, what are you talking about? Man. And he's like, oh, I'm just saying because, you have a beard and I've done my study. And he whips out his like brand new iPhone, and he starts going through to show all these pictures. He's like, oh, I studied this and da-da-da-da. And I'm just looking like, man, to me, this is just behavior of a racist warrior who I go out and I study people that I want to dominate so that I can be around them, so that I can be over-informed about everything that they're doing, so that I can function and be imperceptible around these people. They won't think of me as a racist. They'll think of me as, hey, I'm down, I'm Buddhist, I'm at the temple just like you all. And it continued. He was there the next day too. It was super uncomfortable for me, and it reminded me, I had Dr. Baruti, his quote was in my mind for most of the day. He was on the program in July of 2010, and I think Pumpkin, she asked him about religion, about white people joining your religious practice, and his answer was, I'm paraphrasing, his answer was, if my enemy is joining whatever religion that I claim to be a part of, I have some serious questions about that religion. And I'll mute my line there. The person that called in, 8431, your line is open. Caller 304, listener in Japan, your line should be open as well. And Joe from DC, your line is open. I'm muting myself.
Well, okay, so if that's the case, can you hear me?
Yes, you can be heard.
Okay, if that is the case, and where's the hope, for mankind? Where's the hope? If that is the case, but I don't think that is the case. Even
and be as strategic in separating yourself from your enemies and realizing that if you're trying to do anything constructive, and the problem is white people, you can't solve the problem with white people in your space, considering them as your brothers and sisters, because they're always there on duty infiltrating as soldiers for the white team, regardless of how much they smile at you, how much they grin in your face, and how much they chant. If it was a lion sitting up in that temple chanting with you, would you feel comfortable? Or would you feel like I ought to be suspicious because I know what the behavior of a lion is? Even if he's lived in my neighbor's home for 10 years, he has the ability to snap and behave like a lion at any minute because it's his nature. I think the same way about white people.
But you know, we all have a lion in us, and the lion's roar will wipe out everything. The lion's roar.
It was an analogy. I don't have a white person's nature in me. I don't have a tendency to snap off and practice deception.
Right. But I'm speaking about from the heart. I'm not speaking about mental. So I'm speaking straight from my heart. And you can have a practice like I had with this Buddhism. I can change the way I feel and be happy just the way I am, no matter who is around that's trying. And of course, we're always going to have devilish forces in your environment and outside that's going to try to distract you. But when I do this practice, I'm able to overcome my own greed, anger, and stupidity.
Are you able to overcome white supremacy when you do this practice so that you're no longer a victim of white supremacy?
Well, what I can do...
I need a clean answer to this. I mean, you can elaborate, but I need a clean answer on this one. When you do your practice, are you able to no longer be a victim of white supremacy?
No, because what affects one affects everything else. And no one is out of the loop. No one. So if what affects one affects the other. If this person falls, you can be sure that the one next to him will fall. You see, that's the way the universe. That's the way it is. But how are we going to change that ignorance in human beings, specifically black human beings? And because we struggle, we fight, we struggle, we fight, we struggle, we fight, we struggle and fight at home. And this is supposed to be my home, a day of where I can regroup. But it's up to me to find the cause in my life that caused me to feel a certain way because somebody else is acting that way. It's not out there. It's always within me. Now, I'm not saying that to turn a blind eye to everything you're saying. I'm not saying that at all. I use my practice to get more at the root of the problem of white supremacy and turn it around for victory for all.
This is Joe from
Hey, can I it's going to happen just overnight.
I have a question for you. Can you hear me?
Speak right now? You sound like you're in a tunnel. You're very distant, and it's an echo, like there's your phone on.
Can I real quick? I wanted to respond to a question that was posed earlier about something about the nature of humanity, or like how it applies to our situation. And from the code book, which I think has a lot of really great suggestions, Billy Fuller's code system concept for victims of racism. It says that the racist white supremacists they deny us victims humanity. They deny us humanity, so we're not seen as humans. From the core of just the way that the world is run, we're just not seen as humans in the grand scheme, and they are not acting like humans. So there really aren't any humans as of yet, and I mean, I guess it starts semantically, but it kind of, but it actually manifests as a system where, we're 12% of the population here in the States, but we represent 70% of the people incarcerated, and it's not anything innate from the victims. We're victims. You don't blame a rape victim for having spread her legs. It comes from aggression, and that's the main problem. So, to focus on victims is is a dead end.
Well, is that where the word humankind comes from? That word means humankind.
Well, it's a species. Science.
I think that's the term that white people use to make non-white people think there is some big inclusive of all of us with all of them, and to get us to feeling less defensive against them and like we're all in this together and our guards should be down because we're all humans anyway, and that's just not the case. I think it's a deceptive term that white people use to disarm non-white people and to make themselves feel as if, you know, they are part of some global collective doing good and making things better when they know that their nature is to dominate and subjugate everything around them.
Using semantics to gloss over just everything with just the word humankind, and then you apply everything that's bad to you when really you're a victim. So it's a way to obscure the truth with this word that has all these things attached to it, but it doesn't really mean anything. Kind of like, you know, just not really not providing truth, providing rhetoric in the form of truth. Then you never get to where the truth is even discussed, because the words you're using don't really get to the closer to the truth. They kind of bring people defensive, you know, make people defensive and stuff. But.
This is really hard. When this type of terminology is used in a religious setting, it's very harmful.
Yeah, but it's harmful anywhere. You have to remember this, and I don't remember exactly which guest said it, but one thing to remember, no matter what religion white people profess, the religion they practice is racism, white supremacy. They could be a Christian. Before any teachings in the Bible and the New Testament, what comes first for them and what they live and practice and what guides their life is white supremacy. Whether they say they're Jewish, even among those that are Jews, you'll find the behavior of the white Jews toward black Jews and other non-white Jews exactly the same as it is in and out of religion. It's about domination, mistreatment, and subjugation. So if you hear that word anywhere else, it's not like it's not going to be in religion. It's going to be in all areas of people activity. So it's harmful either way because it's the practice of deception. That's practiced in all the areas of people activity. But it's not just the word that's used in religion. It's white people usurping those religions. And that's the whole purpose of them doing it, to come in and control it and use every religion that exists to steer non-white people back under their domination and or control.
Well, you know what? And that's the whole point. The whole point, like in this SCI-USA, we got excommunicated because the priest has gotten lazy and they thought that they can control all the money, and so they excommunicated this one guy, Saku Keita, thinking that all the other millions around the globe will follow them. That didn't happen. This is the first religion that I know of that people they're holding their own ground. So, in other words, a priest, I don't have to go through a priest to be happy. I don't have to go through my wife to be happy. I don't have to go through anyone to be happy. All I need to do is to chant and become the type of person that I truly am. And that is a Buddha. We are a Buddha. So if we don't realize that we are Buddhists, we're going to still be illusions.
I have a question for the gentleman.
Yes.
How, in your practice, have you been able to come to the conclusion what is the root cause of white supremacy?
Causes. That's the cause. Since day one, it's the cause. It's an inherent cause that we as black people make, and white people make. It's an inherent cause. Everything is a cause and an effect. So when I do and speak on something, see, we have power in our life, you know, and we don't have to be subservient to anyone. Our life is ours to live the type of life that you want to live. Sure, you're going to have negative influences here and there, but all of those things is going to strengthen your life, your faith, and so you can overcome whatever it is. I don't care what it is. You know, it's like the.
I understand that, but specifically through your practice, have you come to the conclusion what is the cause of white supremacy, racism?
Ignorance. Total ignorance of the true nature of your life. The true nature of your life. And if you don't understand the true nature of your life, life is going to be hell. You're going to keep on doing this and doing that, thinking, and mentally you can think about all of this, but how are you going to really change it deep down in your heart? You know what I mean? Deep down in your heart, how are you going to really change all of that? And so you can feel good, and you can even make the white man feel good. You see?
But the question, you just said that ignorance makes one's life a living hell. However, this particular group of people known as whites have made complete hell and destroyed nations on a global scale. So how are they ignorant?
I totally agree.
So
I totally agree. And all it has to do with
behavior, how can they be considered ignorant? They got to be conscious and cognitive to what they're doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And life is not hell for them.
And everything, the causes that they made in the past, don't think that it's not coming back to them. No one can escape, I don't care who you are, can escape the law of cause and effect. No one. I don't care how much power they think they got or what they're doing. They can't escape it. Period.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller. The gentleman is talking now. I just had a question for you. What, in your opinion, is the purpose of practicing a religion? If you could tell me just one reason, what your purpose is in practicing your religion.
Well, my purpose in practicing this Buddhism and chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, because there's a lot of different Buddhisms. I practice the highest form of this Buddhism.
My question is, I should make it clear. My question is, what is the purpose of practicing a religion? What is it supposed to accomplish for you?
For you to become happy.
Okay, and let me ask you a second question. How does practicing Buddhism eliminate the problem of racism, in your opinion? And I don't know if you've been asked that question.
It starts in your mind and the way you feel amongst people. You know what I mean? You can't separate yourself from your environment. We call that eshofuni. Eshofuni. Oneness of your life and the environment. You can't separate it. I don't care how you try to play it, you can't separate it. And that's where all the other separations comes from, because they say, well, we can't live around them because they're this and that. But this is my sickest day that I ever had in my life. And I'm on the phone. I have never felt this like this before in my life. But I realized that this practice of my Buddhism, let me give you for instance, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was in the psychiatric ward back in the 70s. People was coming up getting electric shock treatment. So when I came back from Vietnam, I didn't know what was wrong. All I knew, I was angry. I didn't know where it was coming from. I remember hitting my fist through the door. I lived in North Philly. Hit my fist through the door, and I broke the door because of my anger. And my mother said, oh, Teddy was so strong, he busted his fist through the door. But at the same time, the moment that I did that negative effect lodged deeper into my life. Why? Because I did not understand my life. I didn't understand it. You know, all I knew was what people told me, what I read, but actually no one can tell you who you are but you.
Can I ask a question? Oh, sorry.
So, you know, I'm just so for, and not only that, I have created a wonderful family. My daughter is a biochemist. She just graduated from Temple Med School this year. I got 3 graduations. So, you know, for me, coming from that point to what I'm doing now, it's really mind-boggling. But how did I get to that point? I got to the point because I did this Buddhist practice, and I try to study what I can, you know, faith, practice, and study. So actually, when I first started chanting, I started chanting for, that's when I was taking this medicine in the 70s, Thorazine. I started chanting for marijuana and women. A guy down the street called me up, never called me up a day in his life, and this was in North Philly. He said, I want you to hold 1.5 pounds of marijuana for me. Now, I realized that was actual proof for me, whether that desire was correct or not. That was actual proof. So, you know, from day one, and I've only been chanting for 28 years, you know, but all of this change in the destiny of my life and family's life, it's like really, really profound. And I know it has to do with my Buddhist practice, you know? That I'll stake my life on.
Why did you join the call tonight, if you don't mind me asking?
Why did I join
the call? Yeah.
Because my wife listens to it.
I'm the one that called, and he has completely taken over my call. And it's just a manifestation of what I was trying to say about how religion kind of brainwashed you.
That is so funny. Oh, gosh.
Taking over my call, I'm a little bit upset. I don't want to start an argument on the phone, so I just sit back and listen to him. This is what I have to listen to day in and day out. But I am the one that called. And as a matter of fact, actually, I told him to leave the room because I knew what I wanted to discuss, and I knew that it was going to be, you know, upsetting for him. So I tried to do it discreetly, but, you know, he gets on and he take over. But, you know, I had something else I wanted to say. I've forgotten. So I have to call again, maybe when he's not here.
That's right, because I'm a force to be reckoned with. But listen, I love you all, and I just want to say, you know, you just keep on doing what you're doing. It's okay. It's okay. Do what you do as long as it's going to help another human being. And injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. I'm out.
Thanks. Man, that is the funniest thing. Oh, my God. Woo!
I didn't really want to go there, but, you know, my whole thing was, you know, with religion and how that can really cloud a person's judgment and a lot of flowery words. And my husband's a good man, but, you know, some of that stuff I got sucked into, but now it never felt right. It never, ever felt right.
You know
and the hierarchy where, you know, I feel that way too with racist white people being part of a religion. It just never felt right. It never sat right with my heart. So,
You know what I started thinking as I was listening to the call and to the discussions? I started thinking about religion being an opiate. How people often, at least here in what they call the West, or places controlled by white people, how often non-white people tend to speak of their religions. Like I said, I'm used to Christianity, so most especially that as an opiate, the getting high off of the joy, off of kind of like escapism, you know, about being happy or having joy or transcending the problems in your life by changing your thoughts, even though it's not changing the reality you live in. Like, I noticed that is common, that we tend to use it as a form of escapism.
Yeah, I think that's the white supremacists. I know that it affects, you know, has an effect in all areas of life, but I think that religion is one of their most strongest, powerful weapons. It defies logic.
I think
you know, in that sense, it is like an opium tell a person, because I've spoken to other, you know, Buddhists, you know, and they do not want to even talk about racism. They don't. They put it on individual happiness. And, you know, I even try to attack that in a logical manner. How can you be happy when your people are suffering? I don't want to be happy if my people are suffering. That's insanity. Mm-hmm. To me, it's just my opinion.
I agree with your opinion.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, how can you?
I agree.
It must be escapism, like Pumpkin says. It's you know, they said what religion is the opiate of the masses to escape their misery.
I'm going to punch Gus in the throat because now everybody keeps calling me Pumpkin.
Violence against victims. The violence against victims.
It's such a cute name.
Go ahead, Pam. I just knew it tickled him to hear you say that, though.
I love the name. But, yeah, I mean,
I do think that, you know, I was thinking about Dr. Ben. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with Dr. Ben, and how, you know, I listened to him years ago talk about, even with the Muslims, how, you know, a lot of black people, I think black people are more vulnerable to religious trickery than any other group of people. And how even with the black Muslims that are, you know, they're supposed to be pro-black, but they have a slave master religion. You know, and I remember listening to Dr. Ben, and, you know, with the three major religions, the Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, you know, and the Jews, they're not even trying to hide their racism anymore. They're very blatant. And the Arabs, I hear, my son sent me an email about some of the Arabs, especially in Detroit, they're worse than George Zimmerman. They're just shooting unarmed blacks. You know, they own a lot of 7-Elevens and gas stations, and they're non-white people, but they're just as bad. Now, I don't know that, you know, I feel bad talking against another non-white person, you know, but in my mind, I see stuff like this, I lump them in with white people, and some of them consider themselves white because they call themselves Indo-Europeans. So some of them are white, the Middle Easterns, and they fool people, you know, the black Muslims, like, just different. A lot of black people are Muslims, and they look down on the Christians, but it's still a slave master religion. And it's really hurting us, abusing and mistreating black people too.
I think a lot of Arabs, I mean, in the census or whatever, they're classified as white people, but also it just feels like they could. The imagination is so powerful, you know, and like being like the, you know, original template, for what a person is. You know, black people, we have a very powerful imagination. You know, so it's like they captured our minds in that dichotomy of black and white. So everything else just kind of plays into that perspective, because it's so like ingrained in the way that we go about interacting with people in the world now. It just works out for them. So it's like the whole thing is a religion. So anything within, it's like a religion within a religion. You know, that's definitely, you know, going to be a source of confusion. But I mean, our whole structure of how we live our lives is like in Urugu, they're talking about how they practice the religion of science. You know, science is the religion, and we all are stuck on that one. You know, just a scientific perspective and looking at everything objectively, quote unquote objectively. As if that was possible, we all look at things subjectively. It's impossible to look at things objectively unless you want to say that you're a god, which is what white people are doing. So here we are in God's world, aka white people's world. But,
is that Scientology that you're speaking of?
No, I mean, you know, the way that, because everything is run off of scientific observation, scientific technology, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's become in our subconscious mind. That's what we're all praying to. We're praying to this paradigm of scientific knowledge, you know. But we know that it can only take us so far. Like, look what they were doing before the scope of what they call history. Now they were doing things that are still in the world. Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse with the talk of pyramids, but I mean, it's like a sore thumb because they can't get rid of something that's so, you know, like it's just like they couldn't do anything like that with the technology they have now. But they talk about things that were done in the ancient world as if they could do better things, but they can't. But they say they can, so it shows that they want to, but they can't even come close. So all they're doing is spinning their wheels, being like gods in a world that is on the brink of collapse. Like, everything is on the brink of collapse, but it suits them because they're like some derivative, like, you know, just these foul, racist people, you know.
8431, did you get your question or comment in?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, greetings to everyone. This is, I have to come up with a handle so you recognize me. This is the teacher, but I'll come up with a different one. When we spoke last time about the students in the school, there was an incident then, and it happened, and there was an incident recently. What I'm noticing about our children not having any representatives for them, as I spoke of before, in schools. Well, in some of the schools that are in predominantly black areas, you have a strong military presence, ROTC, as people call it. And I find that a lot of our children are prematurely committing themselves. There was an unfortunate incident. There was a young lady in the class who was a senior, and I always ask all of the students who are seniors or juniors, where are they going to college, what are their plans, and all of these things. And she shared that she was going to the military. And I said, oh, okay. So why, you know, and I go around the room, and then I asked her, well, why is it that you don't want to go to college first, perhaps, and then you can enter into the military, I guess, if that's what you want to do. And she says, well, and she tells the class, well, you know, I have a full scholarship to Clark Atlanta University. I was like, a 4-year scholarship? She says, yeah. I said, well, why did you choose to go to the military when you have a 4-year scholarship? And she says that she went and took the military test and didn't realize, I guess, that she was committing herself and she didn't think that she was going to get the scholarship. So that's, again, lack of confidence in herself. She went and took the military test and I guess signed a piece of paperwork that committed herself to the military. So here it is, one of our children who apparently has the academics to go to secure a full scholarship to a university, and she won't be partaking in that. She'll be going into the military because she signed a paper. I don't know if I didn't ask if any adults were there with her, because at that point, when she shared that with me, I can tell that she wasn't really excited about it, but it was just something that she had come to accept, so I didn't want to make her upset about it, so I didn't ask any more questions. But that's heartbreaking to me because I noticed that there's a strong presence in schools, and, I mean, if our children are looking for someone, leadership or discipline, someone that's consistent in whatever context it is, they may perhaps get it from the officers who work in the schools in these particular programs. And so therefore, like, children sometimes want to be like their parents or aspire to do things like their parents. If these are the mentors that they have, then a lot of them want to be in the military. And also there was an incident. And I say this because I realize that perhaps we're not having enough conversations and we talk about mentorship in our communities and our presence in the communities and parents' presence in every aspect of schools. There was it was some seniors in the class this past week, and there was a young man, a black male. You can tell he's very intelligent, very smart, very athletic, even though he didn't play any sports. He was playing soccer or something. And so I say, "Oh, you going to college?" And he says, "Yeah, but I'm going into the military first." And I was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I began to talk to all the students. And then I overheard a conversation he had with another student where he said that, they were like, "Hey, you going to the military, right?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm going, but I really, I was going to go into the military anyway, but I just really don't appreciate how they went about it." So I assumed that perhaps maybe some similar situation happened to him where, unbeknownst to him, he had committed himself to the military, not fully understanding that. And they have these military tests. Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
Oh, and I was going to say, I don't know much about how children in high school can commit themselves to the military prior to graduation, but I have heard that there is a test that they can take, that they study for, and I guess depending on their performance on that test dictates, I guess, how much money they may make or something like that. But I just wanted to, and I'm not very educated about how the military works, but I just wanted to share those instances because, I mean, it's heartbreaking when children feel like they don't have the academics or they don't lack the confidence to think that they can excel in college and just as a default choose to go into the military,
I wanted to add something. Not too long ago, there was a movement, at least some talk I heard on the Internet, and it might have been on the radio too, but people protesting to there being military recruiters on college campuses. And I think this was at a time when, the government was ramping up these wars with Iraq and Afghanistan and places like that. And it just brought to my memory when I was in high school, one of my teachers, it was for, I'm trying to think, was it American history or world history? I think I was in the 12th grade. And he was constantly bringing military recruiters into our history class, cutting in on time we should have been spending getting an education, having these recruiters come into his classes, in the different times throughout the day, trying to recruit people to go into the military. And he had been in the Army. He was a white male, and I would say he was a racist. I told him what was on my mind when we gave our evaluation of him, because he used to down our neighborhood. And, there were very few apartments where we lived. Everyone was homeowners. It was a predominantly non-white school, predominantly Filipinos, and then black people, and then so-called Hispanics or indigenous people, and then a few white people and other Pacific Islanders here and there. But it was really annoying because he spent more time on racist jokes and military stuff and less time educating us, to the point that other teachers used to laugh about him having us coloring maps, and it was an advanced class. I do remember the test I think you're referring to is called the ASVAB, and I remember taking that in high school, and apparently I did well on my scores. They were calling my mother, leaving her messages, "Oh, Miss So-and-so, your daughter's a rocket scientist, and we'd love to have her in the military and have her take tests, and, you know, maybe the Air Force and this, that, and blah, 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 blah." And at that time, I think the first George Bush was still in office, if I remember correctly, and I grew up in a military town. So a lot of younger males and females I knew from church were in the Navy, and they were deployed and overseas. And I thought to myself, yeah, I could go to the military, but I'm more of a creative person. That's never been my dream. And then I thought, why in the world would I want to sign up and become government property for 3 to 4 years of my life and have someone else telling me what to do, when to get up, where to go? I have no choice in the matter. And I'd be over somewhere killing or helping kill some other people over oil? Like, I don't think so. So it didn't make sense to me. I chose not to go that route, but there was a lot of aggressive recruiting, including the kids that were in ROTC.
And see, that's one of the things that most children, like some of the students I talk to, I say, well, what do you want to study? They say, oh, I don't know yet. They don't know, and it's okay for them not to know at this point, but not to have someone to help them develop or at least gain some interest as to what it is. The default is the military. My experience is at the alternative school in regards to the military. You know, a lot of the students have behavioral, controlling themselves emotionally. That's what they lack, because their lack of emotional control gets them in trouble. And some of the children, they have this once or twice a week, these students can go and meet with these military folks, and they have to shave their heads, and they make them do push-ups and all this crazy stuff. But some of the students I spoke with, I said, what is that? What's going on in there? Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to the, I don't know, whatever they call it, where the military people are. And I said, really, you going to the military? He was like, yeah. I was like, why would you want to go to the military? Well, because I need some discipline. And so I hear the children say these things, but they've heard other people say these things, you know.
Yeah, parents and aunts and uncles will say, oh, yeah, you need to go, that boy need to go into the military so he could be disciplined. Yeah, you get in the military, they'll straighten you out. You know, so you hear that a lot from the older people in our communities and families as well. And I think to them growing up in their time, probably when they were young and going into the military, like after World War II, Korean Wars, things like that, they probably come from the mindset of thinking it's a privilege to be allowed in and to have structure and some sort of security.
Yeah, and I think that, I just think that maybe perhaps we should have conversations about the military and what that is all about with our young people. Because if they get the influence from somewhere, that's where they're going to want to go. I was in it. You know, as far as my family, you know, I had a brother that went to the military, but my father, he tried to take him to the military, draft him back in the day, and that didn't happen. So, of course, there was consequences and repercussions because he wasn't going to the war and all of that. But, you know, I think that I bring that up because I'm not a military person. I'm not an advocate of the military. But it's heartbreaking because these young people are 17, 18 years old, and some of them mature a little bit slowly than other students on some instances, you know. And I think that at that age, they cannot really make a sound decision in regards to them wanting to enter into the military. I don't think they understand how serious of a business that is, and I don't think they can connect the dots as to, we know when they come out of the military, chances are there won't be opportunities for them if they don't stay enlisted. Some of them may suffer, we see now, the traumas that's occurring, the mental problems that are intensified, and they don't know about that part, you know. And so helping them understand, I mean, they could come back with brain injuries if they come back, you know. And so I just wanted to bring that important element to the forefront as well, especially since we're talking about our being victims and our children are being victimized, you know, every day with this reminder of the military. So my heart is still breaking.
This is Joe from D.C. Can I be heard?
Yep.
Yes.
I was in the military for 7 years, and when I started high school back in 1990, they actually cut out gym and required people to take ROTC. So yes, they started back then for the first Gulf War. And what happens is that no matter what your job is when you go in the military, at the end of the day, your only job in the military is to fight. They offer you the different fields so they can get you in, but most people don't know that just like how they are contracting out most jobs, they contract most jobs in the military as well. That's why you have a lot of the infantry guys, the white guys, going over to Blackwater to become mercenaries to kill non-white people. Because in the military, you may make $30,000, but as a contractor, you make over $100,000 to do the same job. So yes, you put your life on the line, but you make no money in the military, but you make more money on the other side being a contractor. So that's another way that they try to get individuals to come into service. Most African Americans also don't go to college and become an officer. They go in enlisted. And most times when you go in enlisted, it is extremely hard to get a job when you come out of the military, because when you go in the military, you almost take the same training that you take when you go to college for a particular field, but in the military, they don't offer you a degree. So what happens when you come outside and you apply for a job, if you were unable to get college when you was in the military, it makes it harder for you to get a job when you come out of the military. So what they try to do is say that some of your military training can apply as college credits, but that only depends on what major that you went into. And most black males or most non-whites and blacks, whenever you go in the military, the first thing they try to get you in is a combat arm MOS, which is infantry or artillery. And I was in actually artillery airborne unit. So that means when war broke out, I was the first one to go. I was jumping out of airplanes. I was running around in the woods trying to kill people. So that was my job when I was in the military. And we would actually have non-white individuals coming in that didn't speak any English, but it did not matter, because as long as you can pick up the rifle and shoot at somebody, it was okay for you to come in. The other thing I wanted to talk about is I saw the movie Prometheus yesterday, and again in that movie, Gus, the black man, Aegis Avern, however you pronounce his name, he actually had to save the world, and again, white people created a weapon of mass destruction to try to kill the world. So if most people like the movie, I'm sorry, say that again?
Idris Elba?
Yeah, that's his name. I apologize for messing his name up. Yes. I didn't mean to ruin the movie, but again, yes, a black man had to save the world from the white man trying to destroy the world. The white man in the movie created a weapon of mass destruction that was going to wipe out the planet Earth, and the black man saved the world again.
Isn't that kind of a modified military imagery right there? That the black man has gone off to war to save the white world? You know, enlisting in the military is just another lower form of being a hero in a movie, saving white people.
Saving a white woman as always. Again, this is another movie where we saved a white woman, and the white man did all he could to kind of destroy the planet. Again, and if you like the movie Aliens or you didn't like the movie Aliens, this is more or less how aliens came to be. And again, it started out as a weapon of mass destruction that just went wrong. It actually killed all the white people, or killed all the people in general. And one of the other things that they tried to say in the movie was that the oldest civilization was in Europe. So the reason why they was able to piece everything together is because they found the oldest artifact, which actually ended up, I think it was in Ireland or one of those countries. And they said that happened to be the oldest civilization. And then when you saw the oldest person in the world, it was a white man. When you saw the God that created us, happened to be a white man. So the oldest civilization was white, and the God who created everybody was white.
All you can say is they're on their job. They're on their job. Most of the movies now are full of symbolism and messages, and they're really telling you their intentions and how they think.
Yes, and as far as the racism or Buddhism, the title Buddha, Buddha is nothing but a title, and what happens most times, most non-white people, when we go into different religions, we never do a comparative analysis of the religion we grow up with in our own country compared to the religion that we are trying to seek enlightenment with. And most times, if we do a comparative analysis, we'll see that it's the same racist ideology and all of them. Yes, can you find something good in any culture or any writing? Sure you can. But at the end of the day, just like most people said, it still preaches racism, white supremacy. It does not stop. So, but because we never do a comparative analysis between Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, we never know what's happening. And that's one of the reasons why I said that I'm anti-European culture, I'm anti-religion of any other cultures. So for me, I feel as though if you're not teaching African culture to black people, then you're killing us slowly. You're participating in it, and I strongly feel like that. So the gentleman who was talking about Buddhism, if his wife is still on the phone, please ask your husband to do a comparative analysis of African culture compared to what he's learning in Buddhism, so he can understand where a lot of those...
He's not going to do it, but you are so correct. What you are saying is so true. By me going to meetings, it's the same thing. They use different words, but the basic technique is the same. Yes.
Buddhism, which is a title, means the anointed one, is the same thing as when you say Christ. Jesus, normally you say Jesus Christ, but it's really Jesus the Christ. Christ is nothing but a title, someone that's appointed to go out and preach the word of God, or an enlightened individual who feel as though they are in touch with God, one with nature, one with themselves, and they can go out and preach or whatever you need to do. Whenever you get into meditations and chanting, it's similar to praying. So a lot of the same characteristics are there. We just won't take the time to study, and that's why we never see the same similarities as far as religion. And I'm sorry my phone went crazy. I didn't get a chance to talk to your husband when he came on. But one of the shows I did, and one of the reasons why I'm an atheist, I talked to Gus as well. So if you want to have him listen to my show, again, I'm Joe from D.C., and I was actually studying to be a pastor. And what I did was I actually did a comparative analysis of all the religions around the world. And when you start to break them down, you start to see the garbage that they start inflicting on a lot of people. And religion, and I think I think Pam asked the question, when you study religion, what does it do for you? I think I said your question wrong, Pam. Religion is a tool used to religion is a tool used to control. That is it. It is not used for anything else. It is a tool used to control the mind. And because most of us just like when Gus talked about as far as terminology, most people don't understand the terminology in most religions, so you don't know the true definitions. And then if you don't speak the language, you don't know what the actual individuals meant when they created certain words or when they used certain terminology. But you have to do the comparative analysis.
Good. For years, he's been telling me things, and the words sounds good. It sounds good to at first to want to be happy. And it's just a bunch of flowery words. But since I've been listening to the program and realizing how important words are, and some of those words, he don't even know what they mean. But
can I get a question in real quick? I just wanted to ask, have you talked to some of the white people that are also practicing Buddhism with your husband?
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, when he was practicing, and this was years ago, this particular form of Buddhism is Japanese, and so I researched a lot about their leader, and found a lot of negative stuff. And I printed it and I gave it to my husband, and he gave it to one of their leaders. How it works in that religion is at the top leaders, it is a hierarchy. The top leaders are white and Japanese. And all the way down on the totem, low on the totem pole is the black people. They have some Hispanic people that have some real low-level leadership positions. But when I gave my husband all of this information that I found out, he gave it to a Japanese leader who shared it with a non-white leader, and all of a sudden my papers disappeared. I never got them back. It was never spoken of. They just disappeared. But they talk, when I talk to the black members about racism, and I've been doing this since listening to the cows, they just look at me like with a blank look on their face, like, if you chant, you don't need to think about racism. It's horrible. It's very depressing, and it's upsetting when I really think about it,
My question would have been, how long has Buddhism existed and how long have people been chanting? Did the system of white supremacy begin during that time period while people were chanting and practicing Buddhism? And if they said yes, then I would conclude that apparently then Buddhism or chanting is not going to solve this problem, and we might need to think about additional things we have to do other than chanting to solve this problem.
Well, one of the things that he talked about was that you have
more people to chant. Can you bring some more people in? It's nothing. I can't even use logic, on these people. But it's sad the way the hierarchy in this particular form of Buddhism is set up, in a very racist manner. And I didn't really know. I didn't look at it that way at first, because he suckered me in for years. But something just never completely felt right. And I think a lot of people that get suckered into religions, they know it don't feel right. It's something, I think it's like a little inner voice inside that doesn't feel right. But then, you do things and they're accepted. Like with my husband, all of his friends are Buddhist. He don't hardly have any non-Buddhist friends. So they're very, cliquish, and you absorb them in your life, and you become one of them, and then after a while, that little conscious voice is like a flame put out. It's just gone.
One of the other issues that I wanted to put out, if I can change the subject again, I think last week, Gus, you started talking about the guy who was eating people. I think that's one of the topics that you talked about. And what I wanted to give people was some historical perspective for individuals who used to believe in or still support Christianity. Eating people is something that has been in Christianity for a long time, and most people do what is called communion every fourth Sunday, and it is called the Christ, where that you drink the blood, which is the blood of Christ, and you eat the crackers, which symbolizes the flesh. And most people don't know that this is a cannibalistic ritual that you actually perform every fourth Sunday or first Sunday whenever you take communion on Sunday. It's a cannibalistic. And I wanted to give you the verse, which is John 6:5-3. John 6:5-3. And some other cannibalistic rituals which is performed in the Bible. You have Isaiah 9:19-20, 2 Kings 6:28-29, Leviticus 26:29 and 26:19 Leviticus. So again, I just wanted to put out some more information on Christianity as far as cannibalism and how most blacks that take communion practice a cannibalistic ritual every time they do communion. So when you start wondering where we get a lot of these crazy ideas from, we get them from white people, and they've been teaching it to us from years, but because we don't sit down and analyze what we're doing, we never understand what's going on.
I agree with you that communion is cannibalistic in nature, and I think about when JC says, eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. Problem is, if they're saying that Christianity is based on Judaism or whatever you want to name what the Hebrew practice at the time he was living, it was considered an abominable thing to be eating someone's blood, let alone drinking it. So that right there should be an alarm for anyone, you know, that was aware of the religion common among those people at the day. But I think that the Romans put that in there. I think that comes from their culture and way of doing things.
Yes.
You know, also the Jews, I think they're Orthodox Jews. This was in the news a couple of years ago, the Center for Disease Control, specifically in New York, a lot of infants was coming down with hepatitis C, and dying from it, and they wondered where. They traced it to rabbis when they performed their circumcisions?
Yeah, that's the Ashkenazim. The person who does the circumcision is called a moil. And for some reason, the Ashkenazim, that's the white Jews, have a habit of putting their mouths on to suction the blood.
Yes.
Now, the non-white Jews that I know, they think that's disgusting, and they say that is not the way it was ever done. That's something unique to the Ashkenazim. That's something they don't do when they do their circumcision. You do not put your mouth on a baby's genitals.
I refuse to stop doing that, even though it was, it was killing some of the babies.
Babies got herpes. It was herpes, not hepatitis. Herpes.
Hey, herpes.
Yes. But to me, that goes right along with that European, pedophilia, and it's something that, like I said, no matter what religion they practice or profess, I see the same stuff. The same nature comes through. You know, you got the Catholic priests as pedophiles abusing children. You got the Ashkenazims in Judaism, and you'll even find stories of a lot of the Ashkenazim rabbis who are pedophiles and have abused boys. In the synagogues and in yeshivas, and girls too, but most of the stories I've seen have been boys. But that's why I say when they keep trying to say, oh, they aren't white, Jews aren't white, and you hear, Christian or atheistic, whatever, non-so-called Jewish white people trying to make the white Jews out to be some separate race, they act just the same way that they do. Although in some areas, I guess you could call them a clique or ethnicity or whatever. There's some areas that they tend to be more dominant in or have a little more mastery over than the average white person. But they're still white. They're just their nature, behavior, their origin. They come from the same regions. They're white people.
I want to recommend a book for you. The lady that just got finished talking called Christian Zionism, and this is more or less a historical analysis of Zionism, and it's by Stephen Caesar, Stephen, last name is, Sizer, Sizer, and the name of the book again is...
You were fading in and out. I was trying to write it down.
I'm sorry. It's called the Christian Zionism, Roadmap to Armageddon, and the author's name is Stephen, Stephen, last name is spelled Sizer, and he talked about the historical analysis of Zionism, how they were able to steal the land in the Middle East, how it got started, the history behind it, the Balfour Agreement, and I think there's a lot of information in there that's key to understanding white people committing genocide on other white people so they can steal land. Because I think a lot of people fail to realize that the Holocaust was nothing but white people killing white people. Yep. Even though they actually killed about 6 million Africans as well, but mainly it was about white people killing white people.
One of the things that I've heard a lot by white people is that war started because not the average American white Jew, but those in leadership and higher positions, and I'm not sure if it was the shifts or whatever, but they basically declared war for all Jews on Germany, and that started off the spark between the non-Jewish Germans and the Jewish German white people. and that whole thing. But yeah, the Balfour, not the Balfour Agreement. I'm trying to think of the name, but before this, the Nazis and the Zionists worked together, and Hitler was working with the Zionists in Germany to secure that land from the Ottoman Turk Empire for Germany's Jews. So the State of Israel wasn't established as a response to the Holocaust. That was already in the works before World War II ever began. But
yes, and the Holocaust had something to do with that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. There were two people talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. So are you saying that Hitler helped the Jews form what we now call modern-day Israel?
Yeah, before World War II ever began. Okay, the same way that you see the Ashkenazim, because I don't like to call them, just keep saying Jews, because there are plenty of Jews who are not white, and they're distinctly different. But the Ashkenazim, that's what I'm talking about, the European Jew. The same way you see them in positions in the United States today, in government, in the arts, in media, and teaching, they had similar positions and freedom and acceptance in Germany. The Nazi Party existed before World War II, and the Zionists existed as well. The leaders in the Zionist movement, along with those in the Nazi Party, had an agreement. I believe it was called the Transfer Agreement. There was a coin that was minted in commemoration of this. Hitler was going to assist them in going to the Turkish Ottoman Empire and purchasing that land, because at the time it was under the domination of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. They minted a coin. On one side of the coin is I guess they call it Menachem David, or what they call the Star of David, which the Zionists were using as their, sign. And on the other side was the Nazi swastika. And it was in commemoration of that. If you look up the Transfer Agreement. But what happened is the white people in the Zionist Party decided that they would use what was going on to kind of herd more Jewish people, through fear and terrorism and persecution into the state of Israel, so that they'd have people to populate it and could take that land over. And I've read stories of other white people, maybe Switzerland, different countries that attempted to help Germany's Jews escape and put them on trains and were sending them to places like Switzerland and other white countries in Europe, who were reprimanded by Zionists for doing so, because they didn't want them sent there. They wanted all of them sent to Palestine, or what they now call the State of Israel or the Land of Israel. So they can definitely be vicious toward their own, and are willing to sacrifice some of their own for their, end goal.
Pumpkin?
Yes, they are.
Pumpkin?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry to call you that, but I don't know your name. But didn't the UK, known as the British Empire, played a heavy role in that creation state called Israel?
Yes.
And didn't the UK or British Empire also fund the Hitler Nazi movement as well?
I'm not sure. I know white people funded Hitler.
Bush.
I know
the
the bankers on both sides.
Yes, the Bushes helped to. The Bushes were working for the bankers, and they helped to fund Hitler for the war and do everything.
No, I'm asking specifically about the British Empire. Didn't they specifically fund the Nazi Hitler movement?
The British, the British made a deal with the Zionists.
I'm not sure if the British funded the Nazi Party or not. I would suggest looking into it. I would say it's most likely that they did, just because when I've read anything about these wars between white people, there usually is a period of time they're funding one side, and then because of whatever political, interest, they switch and fund the other side. So it could very well be, but I know the British did host the Balfour Treaty, which allowed them that land after the war. I know the British were definitely involved in that.
The reason why I asked because I do recall that Palestine was under British occupation.
You mean right before the State of Israel was founded?
Correct.
Could have been, but I know before that the Ottoman Turkish Empire had it, so the British must have gotten it from them somehow. But I know at that one period, there was an alliance between the Nazi Party and the Zionists to secure that land from the Turks for Germany's Jews.
There was.
I downloaded an ebook too. I'm trying to think of the title.
Hang on 1 second. There was a person that called in with a question. I just wanted to make sure we got her question in before we run out of time. The 5369 question or comment. Did you want to get in?
I hate to go back to the circumcision. I just wanted to ask, I have a few friends that are in the Ashkenazim, and they state that they got their circumcisions during their bar mitzvahs in Israel. Is that a normal thing for the Ashkenazim to have their circumcisions at that age, at the age of 13, I believe it is? And for that ceremonial aspect, as far as the putting the mouth on the genitals for the stopping of the blood, is that also a common practice at that age? If you are aware. Thank you.
From what I have learned, well, generally, according to Torah, the circumcision is supposed to be for the male children on the 8th day after birth. Traditionally, even for the Ashkenazim, that's when it's done, and that's usually if the parents are already Jews or if the parents are converting or in the process. I asked the person I know who is a rabbi about that, like, what happens if you get older and you convert to Judaism and you have not been circumcised? I think you do have to get circumcised. I don't know about that whole thing of having somebody suck on your genitals for the suction. I mean, that would turn me off. But, again, that's something the Ashkenazim do. White people. I know if you were already circumcised and you were converted, there would be like a ceremonial prick of that area so that blood is drawn again, because the whole thing of circumcision was, it was a covenant of blood, so there has to be some blood shed, even if it's just a little prick. Honestly, I haven't heard of anyone being circumcised at that age. Not that it doesn't happen. I just haven't heard of it, because for the most part, when I hear about circumcisions among Jews, it's of babies.
Right. That's what I thought, but they said they were all circumcised at their bar mitzvahs. So, thank you.
But see, when you do your bar mitzvah, or when you become a bar mitzvah, usually that's for boys that are already Jews, and they go through Hebrew school and learn the Torah and different things like that, and they're learning the language, and that's kind of like their coming of age, That would be kind of strange to have the coming of age if you hadn't been circumcised already, but not that it couldn't happen. I've never heard of it, and I would think that'd be pretty traumatizing for a 13-year-old male to be having some other male sucking on his penis. I'd be surprised anybody's parents would let them do it, but if that's the custom among them...
Right, I wonder if they...
I hear some pretty freakish things going on among them, and I was kind of relieved to find out that everybody does not do what they do.
Right. I wonder if their practices are different than what they express or what they publish to the outside community.
There's a lot that you can find, though, that they do. There is quite a bit. To me, it doesn't seem like too much is hidden anymore. It's just unfortunate, though, that with them having usurped the identity of Jew and having dominated the religion, that people tend to thereby think that all the other Jews in the world who are not white do what the Ashkenazim do, and think that everybody believes what they do. Now, if you find a black person who converted to Judaism through the Ashkenazim, most likely there will be very strong white identification. You might even find them trying to dominate other non-white Jews, like the Ashkenazim do, like negating their conversion if they didn't come in through an Ashkenazi synagogue or Chabad or whatever they call their, learning place. I have a friend that was telling me about an incident like that, and I'm just like, wow, they're acting like white people. Like white people in little black bodies. But you have entire communities throughout the world that have been practicing Judaism longer than these people have even been calling themselves Jews, and they still have their own traditions. And I think it would be worth, looking into more of them. But as I learned more about what they do and learned that everybody else doesn't do what they do, it just magnified the fact that it's something about people that classify themselves as white that's common in all of them. And a lot of the stuff has to do with sex and the mistreatment of females.
Yeah, I mean, before, I understand conversation is you're applying it to, this historical chain of these people that call themselves Jews, but, let's not forget they're, first and foremost racist white supremacists, and, I'm not reminding anybody of anything, but yeah, it's like anything that, takes away from black people, it's like they want to grant anybody to have this kind of I remember back in the day in New York, those Hare Krishna people would be passing out those little booklets, and it has all these pictures of all these quote-unquote gods with all these flowers and all this fruit and all this lush scenery behind them and animals, and it's like if you're not, basically it's like everybody is great, everybody can define divinity except for black people, on the download, except for black people. So anything that makes anyone that's not black look good kind of implies that gradient of respect where white people get the most and black people get denied and everybody else in the middle is somewhat capable, but darkness is bad, so the light. It's all about the greatest religion, the most widely practiced religion is racism, white supremacy, and that's the only religion really, because everything else is demarcated by that relationship to the light, to whiteness, this literal depiction, instead of having it be as it actually is, which is what it kind of seems to me, like everything kind of filtered through all this black hatred of blackness, but really blackness is opaque, is like this the seed, if you will.
Good morning. Oh, I don't even know. Everyone again.
Blackness seems to be kind of that kind of root of the idea of relating to the universe, and then everyone else kind of depicts it in this literal way that puts all these divisions, and the divisions keep things from being clear enough to actually make sense out of things. Then it's like every day is white people day because they got everybody stupid. But yeah, they're all racist.
If I were in the position I'm in now, knowing what I know, and was considering something like Buddhism or any religion, I would want to research into it, especially regarding white people, and find out when they start practicing the religion, and if there was any demonization of black people or having dark skin. I would have to research that and find out when it began and if that was part of the original practice of the religion. Just to add a little clarity, I don't remember exactly what I asked Dr. Baruti on the program, but I do know I asked him on Facebook as well. I asked him the question about practicing religion and having white co-religionists. And he said that if your enemy practices your religion, you should take a second look at the religion. Not that it invalidated it, but you better look twice at it. Because if something is in the religion you're practicing that allows your enemy to be in it and be seen as your brother, something's not being done right. And I further questioned him about it. I wish I could pull up the message now. It was quite a while ago, though. But he was basically saying that Africans can practice any religion, but it should be from an African perspective and have African values in it. I don't know a whole lot about the Ethiopian form of Christianity, their Orthodox Christianity, but I do believe there are some differences in that, in the way Christianity is practiced among black people and the descendants of slaves here, as well as in West Africa and places where whites have gone and colonized them and given them their version of it. And at least I know one thing, the Ethiopians have imagery of black people when they depict their saints in any biblical scenes. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but I do know at least they have reflections of themselves in that.
Yeah, I'm friends with the Ethiopian. Apparently they have some very, very old buildings there relating to Christianity. It's just like more of like, it's like I feel like we kind of miss the point, not us personally, but I mean us as a people, but we get led into that missing of the point through the power of media. But just the fact that of the origins of all these different, institutions having been, I mean, not just institutions, but the people themselves originated in, what they call, a place they call Africa. And we just kind of keep on moving away from that kind of like, like the whole Darwinian view of evolution. I guess it kind of gets it gets kind of like implanted that wherever you came from is primitive, and where we are now is modern. And so primitive is bad, modern is good. Primitive is African, modern is the European mutant, the racist European mutant. And you don't need to really delve into anything to prosper in this world right now, because that stuff is inconsequential. It's kind of immaterial. It's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, I guess. Everything that's important is going to be on your BlackBerry, on Yahoo News.
Well, is it true that with Malcolm X, I don't know, some people said that Alex Haley just made that up in the autobiography, but when he made his first Mecca or whatever, then he converted and started really liking white people and wanting to practice Islam with white people. Is that true?
I think he just kind of let go of what he called hatred. I think he just kind of felt like he let go of some of his anger, so to speak. But I think he was just relieved to. I don't know personally. I don't know.
Because if it is true, then to take a person as brilliant, and I'm not trying to say that Malcolm X was, later on became unbrilliant, but that I guess that would show the power of religion. If it could take someone like Malcolm X from what he was to start wanting to, practice a religion with non-white people, that always boggled my mind. If it was true.
I think it was kind of like how your husband was sounding, like just how he was kind of like universalizing the idea of peace and stuff like that, and kind of missing the point a little bit. To where the problem is white people, but I mean we're victims. These things happen. We kind of lose sight of what's important because we're so victimized. We're just trying to not be victimized. I guess sometimes we forget what the game's about. But.
There's a caller, your number showing up in Georgia. We got like 5 minutes left, so if you had anything you wanted to add to the conversation, caller in Georgia.
Hey, this is Greg. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Hello? Yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on the World War II aspect with Hitler. That one of the pivotal instances that white Germans rallied around was the what Hitler called them, the Rhineland bastards, who were the mixed children of the African French soldiers who were based in Germany after Germany got whipped in World War I. All these countries had colonies in Africa. Germany had, I think, Namibia, Cameroon, Tanzania, and another one, I think, Tobago. And anyway, they were stripped of their colonies after World War I in 1918. That's also where Germany began their first experiments on black people. As a matter of fact, I think it was a revolt in those colonies that lasted for like 4 or 5 years, around from like 1900 to 1904. And German scientists were carrying out experiments on black people. And Hitler, even in his manifesto, Mein Kampf, he referred to these French black soldiers, like I said, as Rhineland bastards. And one of his first directives once he got out of prison was to carry out the forced sterilization of these people. And I think somewhere before 1940, it was in the late 30s, Hitler had identified every mixed-race child in the Rhineland and had them forcibly sterilized. So, and even in his own words, this was in order to prevent further race polluting. That's in his own term. So, I just wanted to bring that up because we can't let them off the hook. Anytime you hear about genocide and millions of people getting killed, you better believe black folks are playing a pivotal role in that. And I think even if you go back and look at Stalin, I know we don't know that there was a lot of black people in Russia. When you go back and look at those massacres, a lot of black people suffered from that, the so-called man of steel, Joseph Stalin. And I wanted to just kind of touch on the religion. I know you guys said kind of left that alone, and you were talking about the religion. And my personal view on it is one of the reasons why we have so many different religions is because of white supremacy. And let me explain myself, is that it's like each time a religion came out, they were co-opted and corrupted by white people. All of these so-called practices stem from an original source, which comes from black people. But one would get corrupted, so another one would have to start. That one would get corrupted, and so on and so forth. The process will continue. So that's all I wanted to add.
Last 60 seconds. Anything else from any of the callers?
Let me just add to what the gentleman with the other caller was saying about the Nazi sterilization thing being carried out because of their not being white. That whole system started out somewhere in Scandinavia, in the Netherlands or something, and then they were in contact with people in the United States. The woman who started Planned Parenthood, and the whole thing is quite global.
And I think I've even heard, I've heard it been said that the Nazis said, hell, they learned their techniques from America about genocide and sterilization.
Yeah, I forget the person's name, but it was these people in communication. One person who was in America, woman who started Planned Parenthood.
Stanger, and then Margaret.
Yeah, and then she was in communication with the person who the Nazis were learning their stuff from, who was in I forget, like Denmark or somewhere, or Switzerland maybe. They learn from each other. Yeah. And they destroy each other, but they destroy everything, and got an appetite for destruction.
For sure. We will be back on Monday, June 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Kristen Harrison, professor at the University of Michigan. She is a white woman. She is one of the white people who is most responsible for that recent study that came out about television boosting the self-esteem of white males. She'll be on the program Monday evening. As I said, she's done a lot of research on racism. Definitely tune in Monday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Invest if you think the program is constructive. Mr. Zimmerman, they said he racked up about $200,000, and the money has spiked since he went back to jail. Definitely the counter-racist effort, if he can get that for just killing black people, non-white people, invest in non-white folks that you think are doing a constructive effort to replace white supremacy with justice. We certainly appreciate your people who are investing, supporting to keep the cows on the air, listener supported. Wouldn't be able to do it without you all. You can also visit my wish list, Amazon.com. You can just put in Gus T Renegade and invest that way if you would prefer. It's under Gus T Renegade. Just do a search on Amazon.com to locate the wish list. Let's see, anything else? Let me get in before we close out. Pardon. I will save it for. I'll save it for Monday. There were some other observations along the way. Dr. Baruti, I will remind folks, since Pumpkin brought it up, she asked Dr. Baruti the question about religion when he was visited the program in July of 2010. It's in the archives. You can go back July 2010. That program, I think it's in the question section of the broadcast, so it would be probably towards the latter part of that 2-hour program, but you can hear that question and his full response. I think I paraphrased it and Pumpkin paraphrased it on this program, but you can hear exactly what he said July 2010. Check it out in the archives. Again, thank you all for tuning in. I hope it was a constructive investment of your Saturday evening. Remain safe. I cannot overemphasize the importance. Really got to be on alert. It's way too many incidents. I'm sure a lot of people hadn't even heard about the teenager in Oregon who got chased down. It's way too many incidents of that sort of thing happening. I'm sure it's been happening all along, but it seems to be increasing in frequency. Really make sure that you're on alert. If you have children, definitely talk to them about, what they need to be doing to be safe. Their own plans, if they should be, accosted by white people or a group of white people, enforcement officers. Really send them out with as much knowledge and information as you can to deal with those situations in the safest manner possible. Be mindful. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you again to everybody for tuning in to the program. We will be back on Monday. Context of White Supremacy signing out. Replace white supremacy with justice as soon as possible. Thanks for tuning in.